assume, yeah? Okay, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting of September 22nd.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
That's why I was delaying. Okay, everyone. I would like to advise all those present that notice of this regular meeting has been provided to the public in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey. Notice of the time and place of this meeting has been included in the annual notice of meetings, which was posted and filed with the City Clerk and the Jersey Journal and the Star Ledger. An additional notice of time and place was posted and filed with the City Clerk and forwarded to the Jersey Journal and Star Ledger on September 17, 2021. The regular meeting of the Municipal Council of the City of Bayonne is now in session. Roll call, please, Mr. Medina.
Mr. Carroll.
Here.
Mr. Galais.
Here.
Mr. La Palusa.
Here.
Mr. Perez.
Here.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Here. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're all ready? Okay. 01 is a resolution moved by the council member Perez postponing the final passage of an ordinance entitled the Ordinance of the City of Bayonne in the County of Hudson, New Jersey, approving the form and authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease purchase agreement with the Hudson County Improvement Authority relating to the issuance of up to $95 million aggregate principal amount of the authority's city guaranteed lease revenue bonds, and any and all notes issued in anticipation thereof by the Hudson County Improvement Authority. This is being postponed to the next meeting, which is October 20th, 2021. Mr. Galais, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
No.
02 is a resolution postponing the final passage of an ordinance entitled an Ordinance of the City of Bayonne, State of New Jersey, authorizing the guarantee of the payment of the principal and interest of not to exceed $95 million aggregate principal amount of the city's guaranteed lease revenue bonds to be issued by the Hudson County Improvement Authority for the purpose of providing additional security therefore and determining certain other matters in connection therewith. And resolution is moved by Councilmember La Palusa. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
On the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Abstain.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
No.
03 is an ordinance entitled an Bond Ordinance amending Bond Ordinance 017-21, finally adopted by the City Council of the City of Bayonne in the County of Hudson, State of New Jersey, on May 17, 2017, to reappropriate the amount of $286,670.98 and reauthorizing the bonds or notes in the aggregate amount of $272,826.07 to undertake the acquisition of various equipment and non-passenger vehicles for the police department, which was introduced and passed the first reading at a meeting held August 18, 2021, which was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin boards required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting of September 22nd, is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution ordering the ordinance be given a second reading is moved by Councilmember La Palusa. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance amending Bond Ordinance 017-21, finally adopted by the City Council on May 17, 2017, to appropriate the amount of $286,670.98 and reauthorizing bonds or notes in the aggregate amount of $272,826.07 to undertake the acquisition of various equipment and non-passenger vehicles for the police department. And the council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. All right, there any comments online concerning 03?
No hands are raised at this time.
Okay. No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion
Move
to
it.
close?
Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And resolution ordering final passage.
Move it. Second.
And on the resolution for final passage, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
04 is an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 7 Traffic, which was introduced and passed the first reading at a meeting held August 18th, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting of September 22nd, and is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by Councilmember Perez, giving the ordinance second reading. Ms. Nadrowski, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 7 Traffic. It is deleting 11 restrictive parking zones. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. No hands. We have
No hands raised online.
no protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
So move.
Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
Move.
Second.
On the resolution for final passage, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And we are now ready for our speakers. Our first speaker is Ms. Gail Godesky.
Good evening. Gail Godesky, 828 Kennedy Boulevard. Before I get started on my comments, I was just reading through the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, OR 6, I think you really need to reconsider this. This place had history. You're not going to name it after a developer. So please take a look before the next meeting and reconsider naming it something historic, something that means something. It's important. It's not only important to me, but it's important to everybody who gave their lives to keep us safe.
06, you said, right?
06, yes.
That's for the ordinance to name a street down.
Name Port
Lincoln.
Port Lincoln, yes. I really think that you need to think about that before the next meeting. I don't think that's appropriate at all. Okay, good evening. I just have a follow-up couple of questions for the CFO, but she's not here, and
She's
I'm
online. She's
Oh,
online.
she's online, okay. Good evening, Madam CFO. Just a couple of follow-up questions regarding the budget. At the last meeting, you told me that there were approximately 90 police and fire that retired during COVID, and I just want to say thank you to all of them for their service to the city of Bayonne. Secondly, I believe, I could be wrong, but you mentioned $2 million went to overtime money during COVID. Now, these 90 personnel retired. I don't know when, but that means that we had already budgeted their salary before they put in the papers to retire. So there's still money left in that bucket for salary. Yes, you had to rehire, but you're not hiring at the salary level that people have 15, 20, 25 years of service. You're hiring at an intermediate level. So there has to be money somewhere. I don't know if you pushed it to another bucket, which I know does take place in budgets. If you don't use the money in one bucket, you put it somewhere else. But I'm a little confused as to why we had to use the ARP money to take care of overtime when a normal budget allocates for overtime. I know I did. So I'm a little confused if you could assist me in clarification.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First off, it was CARES Act money, and it was not budgeted for. We were not allowed to use any CARES Act money, anything for CARES Act that was previously budgeted for. It wasn't all overtime, it was for backfill, it was for quarantine, it was, we have all the details if you want to get the details, but it wasn't strictly for overtime. Yes, regular overtime was budgeted, but this was over and above.
Okay, so why was CARES Act money utilized, though?
Because it was over and above the normal budget because of COVID. We wouldn't have had all that extra overtime or backfill if it wasn't for COVID.
Okay, so we wouldn't have, so if I remember correctly, at the last council meeting, you said that we needed to backfill for those 90 people that retired, and now you're saying it was because of COVID. So what was it? Was it a combination?
Because of COVID, we could not replace them. We could not replace those that retired because we couldn't have a class, so we couldn't hire anyone.
Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
It's a combination of we couldn't hire, it's a combination of quarantine, it was all a combination.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just had to understand it more. Okay, now from the ARP money, I'm really grateful that a lot of businesses are getting the business grants through the ARP money. That's wonderful. But my question, and I'm glad the director for the BEOF is here, maybe she can answer the question, what are we doing for the day-to-day residents and the regular residents in the city of Bayonne? Homelessness, tenants, landlords. Most of the municipalities that I've read about already have programs for these types of people. I think it's time that Bayonne steps up to the plate and do something with the ARP money to help the day-to-day residents for equitability. Can someone answer my question where we stand on programs for these people?
Well, anything that's spent would have to be approved by council. The only thing I'm aware of is that we haven't really made those decisions yet. We have public health expenses, which means communication, public health care workers, education and vaccination and testing. We allocated $60,000 for that so far. Payroll for public health and people who are responding to COVID in the community, which would be our Office on Aging or health services and the like of that. We allocated $1.8 million so far. Small businesses is the $5 million. Rehiring of public sector staff is $1.3 million. And
What
that's
is
out of
that?
ARPA.
What
That's
is
out
that?
of ARPA. That's, so when your question before was twofold, you were asking about CARES, which was all the overtime for, that was for last year. The ARPA money, we use that to rehire police and fire, 1.3 million. And then there's also combined water and sewer, we allocated 125,000.
So we allocated 1.3 million to rehire police and fire?
I'm not going to say rehire. I mean, it was, people had retired and we replaced them. I mean, that's the explanation.
So why wasn't that budgeted for?
It would have been.
But it
I don't
came
think
at-
we increased, I mean, I don't know. We didn't increase the total number of police and firemen, right? We're kind of at what we were always at, the overall director. Is it about the same? Like if we had 180 cops, 180 firemen, that's kind of where we're at now, rough estimate. Do we increase it?
180, yes.
Yeah, I don't think we increased the number. The number of employees and uniformed personnel upstairs.
Okay, so to clarify, we used
I'm just telling you what we allocated, so if you want more, Ms. Mauer will have to answer the,
So we didn't have that money in the budget. This was CARES Act money,
no, you asked me about ARPA money.
ARP money. Yeah,
ARP
I
money,
get the
so
two confused, yeah.
The American Recovery Act. That's what I'm talking, that's what you asked about. I'm just telling you what we have allocated. You asked what we were doing with it. I'm not aware, and I don't think there's anything on this month's agenda that's allocating any of the money. Is there anything, Ms. Mauer, for our ARPA allocating funds this month?
No, there's nothing on this month to allocate any money. But as far as the program, we have met with Samantha from the BEOF to talk about the rental assistance program, homeless program, and she's gathering some data for us.
She's here, she's coming to the mic.
So yes, just to confirm what she is saying, Ms. Mauer, if you don't mind, I'll speak on some detail. We did meet to discuss some of the programs, and one of the ones that I'm excited about, and I think is good, is the BEOF. You know, the services we provide are governed by guidelines, mostly income guidelines, and when the government provides you that, 1 penny over makes a person disqualified. And we are seeking to supplement some of those programs with less restrictive guidelines because, you know, as you all know, 1 penny over, just because you don't qualify does not mean you're making it and you don't need help. And one of the main ones would be rental assistance, energy assistance. People are coming in with thousands of dollars of energy bills, you know, and LIHEAP is providing $700. Well, that's just a drop in that bucket. So we're looking to maybe consider a match base on that to kind of help take away some of that load for these individuals. So we did
Okay,
discuss.
who do you have to go to get the restrictions lesser because of COVID?
It's federal guidelines, so that would be the government. They have provided their guidelines when it comes to, you know, how they do this. They've loosened some of their restraints on certain things with some of the COVID funding, but the guidelines were not any of those, so.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
I understand that, but what, the money, the program that you're talking about, the rental and the energy, that is not going to be funded by the money that the city has in our ARPA account, right? That's funded by different funds that were CDBG funds, that additional funds that came to you.
Again, you may
via
not
community
approve that.
block.
Yes, to answer your question, again, you may not approve that, but I was asked different types of programs that if this were to be considered, would, for probably some of this funding, would this potentially, what programs would I feel like would be have the greatest impact? So
What is
those-
your source of revenue to run these, like the energy program?
Right.
I read that there's a whole nother source of money, not the money that Bayonne got.
Right.
That's available to you to run that.
They have not reached out to us, and this is probably that money that they're saying is just sitting, but LIHEAP has not reached out to us with any additional monies. They will let us know. We just recently received notice that they're going to be paying shut-off notice, $700 towards shut-off notices, and individuals were providing their information related to that. But any additional dollars, as of now, coming in from LIHEAP to our agency, that has not been announced.
But you received money,
For
ARPA money directly for you? You
no,
already received?
we did not. We did not. That money came straight to the city of Bayonne.
Oh.
Yes.
Any way we could get her some more money so she could help more people?
No, I did not get, this is the American Rescue Act, is that what it was?
Yes, yes.
Yes, no, that is the city of Bayonne's money.
Okay. Absolutely, that's what I was all about.
And the committee can vote on that and get some money over so we could start helping the regular residents of the city of Bayonne?
That allocation would have to come from the administration and approved by the council. That's the way it works.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if you're listening, please approve some money so that we can help the homeless, the needy, and the day-to-day residents. We've helped the businesses. That's our first step. Let's go to our second step and get this done. All the municipalities are doing this. Let's get BEOF some more money.
Yeah, do we have any timeline? I mean, to the point made is on when something like this, because people, people need the money now, so we're talking,
I
it's not
agree.
on for today, then you're talking another month, how long the program. When can we get, I think the question is when can we get money to the residents? When can we actually
Yes.
effectuate change in their life and easing their burden by
Well,
giving them?
just to, first of all, we are doing that. We have multiple funding sources, COVID funding, but now the ARC Act, that I have no say-so over
Yeah, I
that.
want to make that clear to anyone listening at home or here. BOF always has resources available and does a great job for those who qualify. And that's always been the, sticking point is the qualifications. The bar is very low and a lot of people just miss it and they don't get it. So hopefully we can use this money with a little less restriction. But if you do need services, they're there, they're available.
We are there.
And they do a good job. But this was just about getting help to more people and, if the quicker the better kind of way, because people are hurting now. They have been hurting for a while. So,
Thank you, Director, very much for the explanation.
Thank you.
Thank you for your good work.
Thank you.
Okay, my next question is, any update on the investigation that you guys approved at the last council meeting?
We have a closed session today to meet with the outside counsel for an update. After this, we will adjourn into a closed
Okay,
session.
was there things done in the interim, or is this your first meeting?
This will be our first meeting as a council, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to thank Councilman La Palusa and thank Councilman Gelais for doing the right thing at the last meeting. I appreciate it. Food bank funding. I remember at a council meeting, we were trying to help the Bayonne Food Bank. Is there any update on a location for them? Anything going on?
I suggested that Mr. Cooper meet with the mayor, because that would be on his, it would be within his powers that would happen. I don't know if he has, I'm not sure.
Mr. La Palusa, you told Stephanie that you would find a location. Any update on your end?
I'm involved with St. Vincent's, and I've seen that they've been at St. Vincent's already, so that was really my suggestion. They go talk to them to use part of the school, which I believe, and I just saw them over there, I think, last week, I believe it was.
I think Sunday, the weekend, right?
Okay, well, hopefully they have a nice update for us today. Director Cotter, how did your meeting go with the refuse company? You told me you were going to have a meeting with them to try and settle and take care of the garbage and recycling issue. How did it go?
It went well. Recycling, as you know, was a big problem with the last hole we had. We have major improvements. We did have problems with glass being emitted out of some of the trucks. It turned out to be, he had a hole in the bottom from the wear going back and forth that was welded and taken care of.
Mike.
Oh, you can hear me, right?
I can, but they can't.
Okay. So, I got a hold of it. So as far as the glass being on the street, all that's been rectified. That problem has been solved. The other issues as far as missed pickups and all that, it's greatly increased. We don't have as many missed pickups as we
I
had
think
before.
you mean decreased.
Decreased. He increased his pickups, decreased the misses.
Thank you.
So it's definitely improving. He's trying. It's hard, new company to get the routes and make sure people are putting it out on the right day, so.
Not hard, Director Cotter, $7 million hard. You should ask for a discount for at least the first quarter.
It's not $7 million a year.
Well,
It's
it's
one
$2
point,
million and
one
$4
million, a little over $1 million a year.
Yeah.
For recycling, yes.
Okay, my next question is, what's going on with the trees out here? I see a tree was not cut down at City Hall. We used to be a tree city. What's happening? The city is looking dirtier and dirtier, and we're cutting down trees instead of planting them. I'm not talking about Green Acres grants or the parks. I'm talking about our city, our infrastructure. Why are we cutting down trees?
The trees in front right here?
Yeah.
the 2 pine trees, and the 1 cherry tree, the branches were falling off. The only thing that was actually holding a lot of the branches together were the lights that we had on it. We saved the other 2, but they don't look that healthy either, the ones a little further down.
So what are you going to do to make it pretty?
We are going to plant new trees over there in the interim.
Okay. For the CFO, did we receive the $500,000 from the county yet for the walkway to nowhere?
No, I didn't receive anything.
Thank you, Donna. What's going on with the 32nd Street Bridge? When are we going to get it fixed? It's rusting and rusting and rusting.
Right now, we have a engineer that has given us a report that we're working on. We're trying to find financing for it. The state is responsible for, or transit, we're trying to figure out who has what. We're only responsible for the top half of the bridge. The rusting and all that underneath is not the city's responsibility. So,
Why can't we file for a grant? We're filing for all these Green Acre grants. Don't we have a company that we're contracted to do grants to get money to get these things done? I think we do, if I'm not mistaken. We should start utilizing our resources and find solutions instead of the problems. Let's fix the problems for our infrastructure and stop worrying about the circumference. And what about the bridge across 440 for safety? What's going on with that? That's been a couple of years down the pipe.
I believe it's still waiting for state DOT. I don't know. Our city planner, Sue Mack, would have the information on that, and she's not here. So
Okay.
I will let her know to reach out to you and get that information, and I will certainly, anyone else who wants it can call my office and we'll get it to you, and we'll make it available at next month's meeting. I'll start off with a little update on that.
Thank you. I greatly thank all of you for your service. But going forward, instead of after public comments coming back and asking the questions for follow-up, it might be a good idea to either have something printed up with the answers to certain questions instead of coming back and repeating, or, you know, having maybe a 5-minute answer session to all the questions that the residents are asking. This way it'll save a lot of time on your side and on our side.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Okay.
finally, regarding decisions becoming political, to those that feel that way, just remember how you got to be where you are today. Past political favors. And you know what I mean. I don't want to mention names or point fingers, but let's be real. Thank you.
Ms. Wilson?
Good evening. I would start off with the thank yous. Yes, Gary helped us get into St. Vincent's, but we're outgrowing St. Vincent's, and there's a lot of break-ins inside St. Vincent's. So it's becoming like a safety thing because we don't know who's breaking into the school. We had an anonymous donor give us a hand jack last month, so I want to thank that person. And my other stuff is just like she said, let's all stand here and tell the truth. I know what I did when I cussed him out. I admit I was wrong. But last month I asked you to apologize to my volunteers because you did something wrong. And you started off by saying, Sharon, if I did something wrong. That's not an apology. I have it here in black and white.
That I said something?
Take your minutes close, I can hear you better.
Okay, want to see it?
Sure. You can give it to me. Did you highlight it? Because I honestly.
See, I can do it. You said that we abandoned it and you had to pick up our slack. Give one to everybody. I wanted to know what you meant by we abandoned our town and you had to pick up our slack. I'm kind of confused about
I
that.
didn't say, I don't think you should, I did say we picked up the slack when you took, and I think I said right here, it says, when you took bringing your show on your food, as you said on your website, bringing the show on the road. I did say, yeah, we decided to pick up the slack, meaning when you left town.
But you didn't decide to pick up my slack because I never left town. I was still doing Bayonne. I was still sitting up at Grace Church,
Oh, yeah,
called
yeah.
Father Gary.
Yes, no,
I was still setting up at St. Vincent's. So you didn't pick up my slack because I was still here every week.
Stephanie, you know I volunteered with you for a long time.
And that's
I
the
helped
part
you,
that hurts.
and I did, and I was just doing it, and this was when he asked about you guys, that you guys went to the county. I would apologize. I've always supported you. I went to bat for you. I got you when during COVID, when they tried to shut you down, I got you the place down 16th Street when Trinity Church closed. When the cops came down there and gave you a hard time, I came down there and spoke on your behalf. I did deliveries for you. I came to your house and picked up the book when you were sick to bring it down there and do that. So I'm a supporter. I appreciate everything you do. I appreciate everything your volunteers do. I know that they're out there in the rain, the cold, and everything, and I certainly do. And I apologize if I insulted you or because you do nothing but good work.
Okay. That's the part that hurts because like you said, you used to volunteer with us, you did deliveries with us, but I find it funny that we did it for 4 years before COVID, every single weekend in this town.
Yes.
4 years.
Mhm.
What did my volunteers get? Not a place to hold it, transport it, or nothing. COVID come, some money come down the pipe, and you two decide to start Bayonne Feed Bayonne. I don't understand that. If we were doing it for 4 years, volunteering for free, then when you started, you had clerks that should have been in this building out giving out food. So they was doing their job. You were paying them through city money to volunteer to give out food to the town. Totally wrong. But the most hurt part is you can't sit here and tell me you did not know that Melissa Mathers bought Hunger-Free Bayonne so we couldn't use it. You could not tell me that you thought that she could run a better program after we were doing it for 4 years for nothing.
Stephanie, she wasn't replacing your program.
I didn't, she can never replace it.
Oh.
She can't get into the arena with us.
I was just going to tell you why the city people went, and the mayor's office there too, was we would get emails during COVID to the mayor's office. They forward them to me saying, we have people who are hungry. Can you get us food? So yes, the people would go to the store, buy stuff, and that's how it all came about. And we were doing deliveries for seniors. That's how the
We all start. Okay, Sharon, let's go back. Let's go back to when COVID really
Stephanie,
started.
it wasn't to do something instead of you.
We
It was
always
to do
doing
something more.
deliveries.
It was just to satisfy requests from residents.
But why rewrite the wheel if the wheel was already rolling? Wouldn't you have thought, you know what? Since these people have daytime jobs and daytime problems, but they come out here in the cold, the rain, and the snow, let's help her do better. Let's not compete with her because you can't.
We weren't
yes,
competing. I'm
maybe-
sorry. You know what? I'm going to beg to differ with you on that.
And
I'm
we
being
can,
pretty polite,
and we
but it was
definitely-
just about getting as much
I wanna
food
beg
to the
differ
residents
to you.
as possible. It was about getting as much food to the residents as possible. So there was the opportunity to get additional food into the residents. I wasn't doing it for any reason other than the people needed it. There was no other reason behind doing it.
And
People were calling, emailing, I need baby food. you go to the store and they tell me what kind of baby food they need, and they go. I had Gail, who just spoke before you, they would call City Hall, she worked here, she was sending people pizza to their house. So everyone in City Hall was, yes, doing it sometime with their own money, whatever, and because there was such an influx when COVID happened of people calling saying they had no money, they couldn't get food. So that's how it all came about. It was just about satisfying a need that we were hearing and getting calls on.
But wouldn't you call for help to satisfy the need so everybody can get the need? If my house was on fire, I wouldn't call the police department, or call the fire department. COVID was our fire. As the council president, you should have pulled up, stood up on your own, and said, you know what, let me work for her anyway. That's it. I just don't understand. Last month we came here, Gary helped us twice already. We had some other people in the audience that helped us. But the two people that promised us, especially you, because when you was running in First Ward, what did you say to us? I'm gonna get you a place as soon as I get in that seat. How long you been in that seat?
No, I said.
How long have you been in the seat?
I've been here 2.5 years.
And where is hunger free? You have a seat. We don't have our seat. Do not make me bring 50 volunteers here next month because we have you saying what you was going to do for us.
I want and continue to want to help you. And like Gary, I would love to help you find a place.
So
That
why
was
didn't you
what
reach
I
out to
said.
call? So why didn't you reach out to call me? He did.
After the last meeting?
Yes.
You're absolutely right. I did not reach out and call. I did not think you wanted to hear from me.
And that's the thing. You didn't think, and you don't think.
Mom.
And it's hurting the people. It's hurting your ward.
And I would like to rekindle a very working and wonderful relationship.
Like I said, both of you, the same way this got in print, do an apology in print. Because it's not fair and it's not right. And then to have your business administration person buy our name so we can't use it, that's child play. She's not 5. But you're not hurting me because what she did was made us better, and I thank you. But it was unnecessary. We do unnecessary stuff to get back at people, and life is too short. You're no better than me. You're no better than me. I'm no better than you. But we have to learn how to work together because that was a waste of time, trucks, and money. But the same people that you promised a place to set up in come out their pocket, personal money, fundraisers, certain restaurants, take off days out their job. You know what I did Tuesday? I had to take a sick day to pick up food to bring to the back bay. But if you would have helped us, one of my volunteers who don't work could have had the truck to take the food to the back bay. Every Tuesday, I take off to take food to the back bay. A sick day, a vacation day, and a personal day. But y'all don't understand that. This may be a game for y'all, but it's not a game for me. Just like you was getting phone calls, I was getting phone calls from Florida, from people living in Florida and their parents were still here. I would go to people's house 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning before I go to work. So, but none of y'all ever asked, especially you. And the only person in the last 30 days that stepped up was him. So you all should be ashamed of yourself. You don't have to answer to me. You got to answer to those people. So when election year comes, don't ask me for nothing. Don't ask my people to help you, because I'm not. And if Daffy Duck run against you, I'm voting for Daffy Duck. You asked us how you can help. If you still want to help, here's our wish list and our monthly donations. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Donovan.
I'm Frank Donovan from Six Story Court. When I originally decided to come up to speak at this meeting, I had intended to ask about the ongoing recycling pickup problems in the city. But after reading an article in the community news about the wind turbine issue here in Bayonne, I decided to switch topics. Now, I realize that the turbine project was started by a previous administration, and that this administration has to take care of all the problems that are associated with it. Now, I understand that. What I don't understand is why it's taking a year of negotiations to get this going, number one, and why, during these negotiations, are we negotiating apparently with other companies to take over this turbine. It was stated in the article that the company is concerned about its reputation and cares tremendously about this issue. Well, if they do, why is it taking this long? Why is it taking a year? It also stated in the article that the cost of the repair of the turbine has not been, of the generator, has not been determined yet. Now, after a year, why haven't engineers been able to sit down and figure out how much it does cost? I would think that figuring out the cost of this would be an integral part of the negotiations that you have with that the city and the company have. So to figure out in the end, if nobody's held responsible, how do we divvy up this cost? And we'll grant money. If we have lawyers that on both sides that are discussing who's responsible, who's not responsible. They say they're not, the city says they're not. Is there not a clause in the maintenance contract that says who is responsible for such an issue like this, or who is not responsible for an issue like this? There has to be something. You can't go for a year and not figure out who is responsible. Is there not an arbitrator that's around? I just find it hard to understand. Now, and also, during the course of these negotiations, why does it seem that we're negotiating with other companies to take over the turbine project? Are we negotiating with these companies to take over the existing turbine, or are we negotiating with these companies to purchase from them the new turbine technology that will be added to these 5 or 6 other turbines that were mentioned that are going to be used throughout the city, wherever they may be? So I just find it difficult, again, to understand the length of time it's taking. Multi-billion-dollar companies do things a lot more complicated in a lot quicker time than this is being done. And why are we negotiating with these other companies, apparently negotiating with them? It's just something I just wish that someone can answer.
Well, Mr. Boyle, I think that was your article. And I'm just going to, I'm not passing the buck, but I'm not aware of of the city negotiating the sale of that. The first I heard of it too, I don't believe we authorized that. It would have to come through the council, so I don't believe there's any.
Not from the city.
The city is not in negotiation. I don't know, Mr. Boyle, if you're operating under some other aspect or.
I'll answer the questions in time, okay? So, Mr. Donovan, thank you for asking your questions. It's much appreciated. Sure. The turbine, which is a very, very visible asset in Bayonne, as we know. It's a multi-million-dollar asset, and we happen to get a bit of a corker, right? So we have a lemon, right? You're asking, why has the negotiation taken so long? Well, the negotiation is trying to get at all the other things that you've been asking questions about. There is a contract, a maintenance contract. We're interpreting it one way. They are very steadfastly interpreting it another way. So when we can't agree, hand off to the attorneys, and they start going back and forth. It is a lengthy process, and it's nowhere near its conclusion. So that's just the simple fact of the matter. These types of negotiations do take an extended period of time.
There's no clause at all in.
It's a contract. It's nothing but clauses. They can be interpreted in different ways. It's like reading a regulation. Some people clearly see that it says A. Some people clearly see that it says B. So sometimes you're right. It needs to be arbitrated. That's what the attorneys are doing now. And if they are not able to come into an agreement with each other, we'll go to the next step. The next step would be that arbitrator that you suggested, which would be in a court of law, where we would then initially, effect a lawsuit against them, claiming breach of contract, and then that would have to be negotiated through the courts. Now, with respect to negotiating with other companies, during the course of the investigation, it became obvious to us that in keeping the same tower, that there is a possibility that we could replace it with a different generator. The benefit of that would be that it would get us away from Light Wind America, the company that we're having the problem with. The other interest in doing that is because there are other companies in the area that also have an interest in wind energy. And if we could wind up with a scenario where there were 3 or 5 windmills in the area, all of the same type, that we felt was an avenue worth exploring, which is what we are doing. So regardless of the words that a journalist used in the newspaper, we are absolutely exploring other ways of handling that turbine, something that has been so problematic. I would be errant in my job responsibilities if I was not looking at something. When and if it gets to a point where it looks like we want to head in that direction, then through the administrator, we would make those desires known, and that is when the city council would become engaged in that. They would then enter into the conversation and see if they agreed with the path we were traveling on, or if there was some altercation or amendments or drafts or edits that they would like to make to the approach that we're taking. And then when that is settled with the council, that is when the council votes on it, and we would go to that next step.
Okay, I understand the complexity of such negotiations. But again, I ask, why is it taking a year and a half to get this done when so many other more complex deals around the country and around the world are done in
I think you'd be surprised if you knew exactly how long those other deals that you're talking about actually take
Well, all right,
to accomplish.
I've been involved in negotiations in the past, and I've run into problems such as you're saying, but we've completed them in a much more timely fashion than what we're talking about here. And I just don't understand why, again, I don't understand why it's taking this long.
I cannot improve your understanding of that
and
point.
I realize you said it's complex.
You know, and that is the explanation. If you want to accept it, that's what it is. You know, why is it taking that long? Because it is a complicated
Okay,
thing.
are we still paying the $100,000 for maintenance when there's nothing to maintain because it's not working?
No, the contract is in suspension right now.
Okay, because the article led me to believe that we were still.
Well, if we
When
took
did it-
out the fine-tooth comb, I could find multiple issues with the article.
So, Mr. Boyle, because we're kind of in the dark about a lot of this, except for what we saw in the article too. When did we suspend the maintenance contract? Because this wind turbine, so
wasn't in the-
you can
in the
provide us
article.
all the detail.
I'm not
How
walking
long-
around with all the deets
how
in
long
my
is-
mind
how
with regard
long-
to this stuff. The contract became suspended when it wasn't renewed.
And it's
So it
yearly
wasn't
renewal?
renewed because we were in disagreement on this topic. So the windmill itself is not operational. There's no sense in having a maintenance contract
Agreed.
on an asset that's not working.
Agreed.
Well, that's
But how
agreed.
long has the windmill not been working?
It's about 15 months.
15 months. And before that, it was working only for a very short period, right?
It worked for about a year and a half.
A year and a half. So was a year and a half not working, 13 months, and then before that, it wasn't working for quite some time.
Before that, it was when it had the $800,000 problem, yes.
So we are supposed to generate how much? I think the article is like 300.
When it's working properly, it generates about $325,000 worth of energy annually.
Annually. And we pay how much annually when we have the maintenance contract?
It was just shy of $100,000,
So we net about
225.
and all the other problems. I mean, I just from.
Which is, again, which is all the push and the desire to get away from light wind, right? The
Yeah, and
contract went from bad to worse, and you better believe, when you enter into a $100,000 contract, our attorneys worked night and day to button that thing down as tightly as we thought it could, and then when we needed it again, their side started going, oh, nope, see here, this line says, so that's where we're at, it's a negotiation.
I have another question. So in that respect, I'm just trying to get a cost, because although we're not engaged, we actually do have the authority for resolutions on stopping spending on certain things. Who's the counsel? Is this outside counsel that we're paying for that's negotiating on our behalf, or is this our in-house attorneys?
Outside counsel.
So do we have an idea of how much that's costing us?
$60,000. It's Renee, Coughlin, and Mincello.
That's just
That
for, all right,
contract,
so the
that's,
60,000 on that.
So you're familiar with that contract,
Yes, I am.
right?
So 60,000 on that, and then, there's a question of when's it feasible? But also with
Well, you have to
regard-
keep in mind,
With regard to the
it's a
sale.
multi-million-dollar asset, so
Understood
that
but
needs to be kept in mind.
But we're losing money on it now yearly. We're losing money on it now. I mean, it's an asset, but it's costing us money if you can't do anything with it. But in addition, yes, sale, someone's saying sale, that's a question. If we're going out to find potential buyers for this, you've shopped it around, because there was a quote from the guy from one of the companies who said, he was in negotiations with you. Are we RFPing it? Don't we have to put that out? And is there EDA money in this? Which would
What we're
prevent
doing
us-
is exploratory conversations. We're not in negotiations with
Exploratory
anybody.
conversations would still need authorization to do exploratory conversations on sale of an asset, to enter negotiations.
No.
But
What we
a question
were
is it-
talking to them about was, could we put a different generator on the top of the pre-existing tower?
Oh, I thought the gentleman from the company, can't remember his name now, said that he indeed confirmed he was in communications on potential to buy the asset. But even though, I don't even know if we can sell it, is there EDA money in there? Is there money in there would prevent the sale of that?
We're not that far down the pathway of this conversation. Those things have not been explored yet. Sorry, somebody have a comment?
Okay, I just was curious. Was looking for information, because I don't know, do you guys have any questions on the windmill? No? So is there a timeline to make a decision when we,
Not yet.
okay? You know what, we'd like to understand what this is fully costing us.
Mr. Boyle, so you said there's an arbitrator who's...
I never said that. No, I didn't.
I'm asking you, how is that working? That's all.
There is no arbitrator.
Oh,
I
okay.
said, if we have to get to the next level,
Okay.
it would be in a courtroom, the judge would be the arbitrator.
Okay, all right,
An
thank you.
administrative law judge or whatever, civil, whichever court it was in, I don't know.
You mind if I sit down? My back is...
Oh, sure, you're finished. Thank you, Mr. Donovan, thank you. Sorry, yes, absolutely. Okay, so, I think we'll just get a.
Yeah, well, the administrator's office is aware of these conversations, and if it had progressed to the point where it was appropriate, and when it progresses to the point where it's appropriate, the council certainly would have been notified.
Well, okay.
Anything else?
No, I don't. I'm just curious about the negotiations.
Mr. Solari?
For a light thing. Oh,
Good evening. I'd like to thank Gary, Sal, and Sharon for coming to my phone this week.
sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Take your mask off so
Volvo is Western Hospital on Sunday. CarePoint, which everybody is looking to give them $95 million. They're making us look like fools. We bailed them out twice already. And you're thinking about bailing them out again. One, it's totally stupid. We bailed them out twice. Why are we going to do it a third time? So they can walk all over us and make us look like jerks? No. Not falling all late there at the hospital. The nurses tell us, can't come see her because of COVID. You call up the Bayonne Hospital, answering information. Yeah, you come see him. Half hour. Right, 11 to 2. You call the floor, sorry, you can't come see him, he has COVID. No, he doesn't. He was tested 3 times in that hospital. COVID-free. He had congestive heart failure and pneumonia. The nurses told the doctor on Tuesday, you only got 10 minutes in that room. Tells the doctor, 10 minutes. Doctor turns around and says, that's my patient. My fiance was on the phone talking to her father. Doctor said, I'll call you back. Well, one doctor's very busy. Never called us back. Hospital calls my house at 4:15 in the morning on Wednesday to tell us that he passed away. Then we go, can we come and see the body? No, COVID. Well, I actually seen somebody from the hospital. I told them they could stick the COVID crap up their butt because hospital information saying one thing, they have a different rule. The worst thing is, CarePoint doesn't even communicate with the doctor. They tell the doctor on Thursday when he goes up to the hospital, they ask how Mr. Guthrie's doing. They tell him, sorry doc, he died Wednesday at 4:15 in the morning. And this is what you guys want to, say yes to 95 million? You want to give 95 million? You got Tommy Cotter's department that needs money. You got the police and fire that need money. Give them the 95 million.
I need money.
Go to the 32nd Street Bridge. There's your money to fix the bridges. Don't give it to that piece of crap hospital over there, the CarePoint, and bail them out again for the third time. Give it to HRH. They deserve it. They own the property already. Let CarePoint go. They got a thing on Facebook, mass hiring at the hospital. They're looking for nurses, doctors, interns, because they're losing people because they don't want to work there no more. But meanwhile, they're making a profit. An owner builds a house down the shore somewhere, $250,000 house, but you want to give them 95 million.
I can't get a building.
I mean, we need the money in this town. We got police and fire that need it. They deserve it. We got citizens that need it. Give them the 95 million. Split it up with the people in this town. Don't give it to a hospital that we already built. Gary and Tony Chiapone, they busted their asses, went to Newark at the bankruptcy court, bailed them out for $6 million. Then he did it again. Chevrolet and everybody up here, bragging, smiling, taking pictures down at the hospital. What are you going to do it again? Oh, yeah, you're nice. Election time's coming. They want to kiss your ass, give you money in your election fund, and walk away. And then walk out. When they walk out of the hospital, guess what? We're stuck with a hospital that we don't know nothing about. None of you know how to run a hospital. And this is what we're going to deal with. They're going to walk out. We're going to get stuck with a hospital. No, can't fix the problem, because now you got a bigger problem. So, this is what you guys got to worry about. CarePoint walking out on you after you give them a third try. I mean, one, nice guy, has a cop, the sheriff and cops, 1, 2, 3 strikes you're out. When it comes to $95 million, 2 strikes you're out. Don't give it to them. Tommy Cotter's department needs it. The police and fire department need it. The citizens in this town need it. CarePoint don't need it. Let them go. Let them walk out, let HRH take over. They're doing a hell of a job in Sea Caucus. This is what I'm trying to say. The administration at the hospital don't care about the people in this town. I haven't stepped foot in that hospital in 4 years. I go to 24th Street. I'm in and out of there in 20 minutes. You go to Bayonne Hospital, you're there for 4 hours, waiting for them to come take your temperature. And this is what you guys want to vote $95 million for. When October comes, I'll be back again, just to refresh your memory, how they treat patients. And I'll go around town, I'm going to find people, and I know 5 or 6 people that had the same problem. They let a lady out of Bayonne Hospital a couple of months ago with a fractured foot, which they didn't even set. They let her go there, and she was in shock when she got to the medical center. And the doctor there says, I don't believe they let you come in here like this without setting your foot first. And this is CarePoint, $95 million interest that these guys won't get into. And then we're stuck with a hospital, us in the county. You want to help? These guys right here. That gentleman right there, his department. They need the money. And the citizens in this town need the money.
And hunger-free Bayonne.
And this young lady right here. Take part of that money, build her a building, city. I mean, Gary does what he could do.
He sure does.
I mean, Gary's a saint up there. And I love him dearly, he's my brother. So, all right, good night.
Sorry again for your lost time.
Thank you.
Mr. McManus?
Patrick McManus, 97 West 29th. Did we, I think it was touched on earlier about the American Relief Fund. We said about using it for police or fire, because there were some people who were, I guess, rehired?
Can't hear you. Not rehired. The question was, you probably have to raise that up a little. He's asking about what we had earlier about the ARPA money, that what was portion of it that was used or allocated, I don't think it was all used, 1.8 million for the rehiring or the backfill for, sorry, 1.3 million, I'm looking in the wrong place, rehiring public safety staff. So my understanding is there were a number of retirements, which we confirmed, I think it was 90 retirements in police and fire.
It wasn't already in the budget for those rehires, or?
It was. Our budget didn't change. We were fully funded on our budget.
Yeah. So none of that American Relief Fund was allocated for that?
That's the question for the CFO, if that can be used for that. This is replacement of people that we already had budgeted, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we don't need them.
Can
We need
you
them
explain how, although it's budgeted, I guess that's, explain to Mr. Manis how we can still use it even though we already had it budgeted for the, not for overtime, I'm just talking about for personnel issue.
Okay, no, it wasn't budgeted. This is allowable to bring the employee numbers up to pre-COVID levels. Because during COVID, we weren't able, because of budget reasons, and then of course with the police and fire, with classes, that we weren't able to hire during COVID.
I understand that, but I don't understand the budget reasons, because we had it budgeted,
Yeah, we had
it was just
budgeted.
delayed, right?
No, we didn't.
We didn't have a replacement of our police and fire budgeted?
No, the budget was just adopted last month.
Right, I thought that was already considered.
Yeah, but it was, but we were keeping it the same, right? We were, we didn't increase it, we were status quo, right?
Right.
So we didn't need an increase to replace them.
So we didn't need to use the.
That's a different.
We could, yes, we would need an increase. We would need an increase to replace them.
Why?
So
We're losing top 95 people at top salary retired, and we're bringing new people in. at the lower street.
It would have been an increase from last year. Because don't forget, last year was skewed because of COVID.
They were still working.
So it's really hard to compare last year to this year. Because a lot of the salaries were covered under the CARES Act last year. So it wasn't a full budget.
So it wasn't allocated in this budget,
Correct.
and that's why we had to use
It was
the American
allocated
relief.
under the grant, it was allocated under the grant section of the budget. So
Okay.
they'll be paid out of the grant.
Okay. That's for like rank and file, that's not going to the upper echelon of the brass or anything?
I'm sorry.
That's like rank and file, that's like the people coming in?
Yeah, but I mean, we hire new hires at the lower levels,
Yeah.
at entry level, sorry. Not
Right.
lower levels, at entry level.
It was for the new class.
Okay, good. And but the American Relief Fund was used to help with that,
Yes, a portion of it.
a portion of it? Okay.
And then there was a portion used for the combined water and small businesses, and then public health awareness, like COVID testing, education, and stuff like that.
Okay, and any that used for like the citizens or anything?
Well, I think we touched on that before. Well, obviously, the small business loan was for residents, or business owners, not necessarily
Right.
residents, but that's a big part of our community, and we're glad to do that. We did it last time. It saved a lot of businesses, and it's going to help them again this time. What we are pushing for, and we were trying to get the public input on it, to get other, right, food insecurities, education, job training, rent control.
And you said that's
right.
all like administration that has to be done by them?
Yes, that would have to be pushed down by them, what it's going to be allocated.
And you're not aware of any plans for them to do that?
We have not received anything. They can't spend it till it's approved by the council, and we have not. They're the 4 things we got, 5 things. Public health, payroll for public safety response for COVID, small businesses, the police and firemen restaffing, and the combined water
So,
storage.
I guess I gotta call the mayor's office to find out if they're gonna do that or not?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just wondering about this past storm, and I don't think that's the last one we're gonna have. I lived downtown years ago, and it's always been like a river down there when we get bad water. And I know that, bad storms like this happen. And that was a really bad one. And a lot of places were flooded out, but, I mean, I've seen people talk about, like their basement was filling up, and they actually got out and tromped in the water, which is probably the nastiest thing to do, because that's all mixed with probably sewage and dirt and whatnot. But they started clearing out some of the gutters near their block, and their water started to actually recede. I don't think it went away, but it actually started to recede. I know that we sold off our water and sewer rights to Suez, right? So we don't control any of that anymore, but I think part of, and correct me if I'm wrong, is they're supposed to increase our rates year after year for like 30 years or something like that. And part of that, I would hope, I think that's what the deal was to improve our sewer system that was like 100 years old. Has anybody, is there a liaison with them that has been tracking them and
It
seeing
falls
the updates that
under
they've been doing?
Municipal Services, Director Boyle, and then there's Jason, there's a representative from Suez who's kind of assigned us, would you say?
Right.
Manages of our relationship. So,
And I know that was like an unprecedented storm, and there was a lot of places, but like I said, there's instances like this resident I spoke to actually went out and started cleaning out their gutter, and some of it started to recede. So I was wondering, was there any preparation done? Has there been updates that have been done throughout these past, what,
So
8
when a
years?
storm like that, especially with a storm like that that's forecasted,
Yeah.
not only is the Suez crew out there, but most of Tommy Cotter's crew is out there 2 days or so before the storm, clearing out the gutters to the extent that we can, and clearing off the tops of the catch basins.
Right.
Because you're right, when enough debris get on the top of the catch basin,
it forms what's called a mat, and it will certainly reduce the effectiveness of the system. On a storm like that, however, which was a gargantuan storm, the system probably operates at about 130% capacity when it's fully charged and all our pumps are going. So we're moving water like crazy, and there's just not really a system anywhere in the country, in the world really, that's built for a storm like that. So once the system gets overwhelmed, gravity takes over. So it's the bottom of the hills, and those are the things that it's just, there's not a whole lot that can be done about it. The city is, however, at the beginning of about a 30-year build-out that will bring us more storm water sewers that will focus exclusively on stormwater, and other major new assets will be coming into the community to hold stormwater during the height of the storm, which will then bleed it back into the system as the system has room in it in the moments following the storm.
Right.
So even with a storm like we had that night, 6 minutes after it stopped raining, there wasn't a puddle anywhere, because once the system gets a chance, it can perform well enough. There are certainly areas of town where the system needs work. We have just wrapped up a 5-year engineering period where we've looked at 1,000 different scenarios of what the best way to address the problems in Bayonne would be. We are currently waiting to hear back from the state DEP that our plan of action is acceptable by them, and then we will start to implement that plan. That plan has already kind of been begun. We see the rehab of Fitzpatrick Park right across the street has a cistern built underneath it to hold stormwater. That cistern will hold 346,000, is it? 1,000 gallons of water, right? The reason for its placement there was because it was a park and we could get underneath it, although we had to get special permission from Green Acres to do that, because it is a park and they don't want us using it as part of the plumbing, right? But we got the special permission and we put that huge cistern there. The block just south of there used to flood horribly. Right, so all the stores across the street from the shop, right, they would get 2 and 3 feet of water in their basements. So this is what it's called the long-term control plan. These are the kind of things we'll be doing to try to get control over these bad neighborhoods that are more prone to flooding. So there is work that's being done. It's going to take 20 or 30 years to build out. There'll be one project after another, so no one big project, but a series of projects that will be rolled out over the next 20 years or so, hopefully completed in the next 30 years. That will bring us into compliance with the latest storm water management regulations that are both federal and state.
There is in the ARPA money, we have allocated money, and that money can be used for that, and we allocated $125,000 towards the combined sewer.
Right, and I think the initial idea for that money, it's not been fully encumbered yet, was to assist with Hobart and Cottage Street. It's one of our low spots in town. Several hills come together there, or the bottom of several hills come together there, and it's just a really low-lying area, and it's kind of close to the waterfront as well. So we'll be using some of that money in a rehab for that park that is on the radar screen for the near future. And there'll be many other projects. We're also looking at the corner of 19th Street and Avenue E. There's another area where we have some serious flooding concerns, and we got a project designed there. We were able to get help from Rutgers Cooperative Extension. They came in and did some survey work and designed a couple of assets for us that they felt could fit into that neighborhood. We have to carry the ball then for the rest of that project, but we used some connections and got some free work done out of Rutgers. Go Rutgers, you always have to be happy for Cooperative Extension because they can be very helpful in a community like ours. So we have a couple of small projects on the blackboard, or on the drawing board rather. We have a huge project ongoing right now across the street, and as years go by, we'll be doing other projects. Upsizing the size of our force main that connects us to Newark and different things like that. So
you're saying since we sold off the rights, it was about 8 years ago, where there's been improvements? And
there has been improvements annually by the system. The water deal requires them to do $500,000 worth of maintenance work annually. and there is a $2.5 million capital improvement fund. We usually wind up stealing liberally from that to the maintenance side. Usually winds up being closer to 1.9 or whatever, but yeah, our fire hydrant system is way more robust now than it has ever been. When I first took the job, annually, we would put out of service about 41, 43 hydrants. I think the number right now is 8. So there has been we keep a pretty close eye on those guys. They understand that we value their job for us by how they value the work they get out of our money. So it's it's a well-watched relationship, and the system has definitely improved since they took over in 2013.
Well, you might want to convey to them, like, with, as pertaining to their public relations person, they may want to, like, put out something, or, I'm not saying just on Facebook, maybe a little postcard, letting them know the improvements they've done, or...
It's kind of funny, they're actually, I'm expecting next week, first draft on a pamphlet that they've developed for Bayonne.
Okay.
And my understanding was there was going to be at least 3 more to follow. So in this first pamphlet, they're going to introduce some ideas and concepts, help people understand the deal itself maybe a little bit better. And then there'll be 3 more, I don't want to say advertisements, but informational packets that will be developed over the next 10 months or a year or whatever.
Gotcha.
I just have a question follow-up on, you were talking about we take money from the one, did you say capital, and we use it most times, right? You said they do 500,000 a year in improvement, and then you said there's another fund that usually we borrow from for capital, isn't that what you just said?
What I said was we wind up usually stealing liberally, of course,
I know.
Borrowing liberally from the capital.
But we have to pay that back, that's our own money, right?
That's
not
our own
Suez's
money. So instead of us doing a brand new project, we're fixing the problems that we have.
Yes, but it's our money, not Suez's money.
It's all our money.
Yeah. So we have to pay that back if we take.
No, there's no paying that back. That money is part of the deal.
Doesn't that get made up in the rates to be?
Every single year of this contract, KKR gives the city of Bayonne $2.5 million for capital, $500,000 for maintenance, and $500,000 operations money. Every year of the contract. So all I'm saying is, instead of that being strictly dedicated to capital, when we need it for maintenance, we use it.
Okay, but it's our money.
It's all ours.
It's our own money, so it's not like they're giving us something.
Oh, they're not giving us
Yeah,
anything.
so that's what I just wanted to be clear, that we were getting something.
No, they're certainly not giving us anything.
Okay, so it's our money, okay.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, Pat?
Just want to thank Councilman Goulet. I know that park has been your project for, like, you've always pushing for that, and I just want to thank you for those improvements, or pushing for them, watching over it.
Get back to his part of it.
Mr. Dupay?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the time. The problem is when you don't speak right away, I come in a nice large letter, typed out notes. I wind up writing arrows and red letters all over the place, and my handwriting's not the best, so bear with me. All right. Someone calling this the art of budgeting, and like using what you got, New Jersey talk. I want to ask you a question. When do you start working on the next budget? How does that work? I'm new to this stuff. Everybody's talking about money from here and there. I think us taxpayers are just concerned at the end of the year if taxes go up or down.
I'd like to think that it's an ongoing thing, so
Okay.
if you see some differences maybe in what's going on, you can increase certain things or decrease.
Okay.
Maybe you take something from one from the other. So during the course of the year, we'll make adjustments on the budget that we have, so then that would make a note for your next budget. So I guess it's an ongoing thing all year.
I think generally,
kinda like
if you're
what I
talking about generally they start working on the budget, I'm assuming February, March, because we
Yeah, it's a
usually have to,
fluid situation,
introduce it by
things break
June?
and- Yeah, I understand.
June?
CFO, she can tell us.
Donna?
Yes.
The question is about the budgeting process. When do we usually start the annual budget for the next year? So for 2022's budget, we normally start putting that together, I'm assuming early first quarter, because we need to pass it by the end of second quarter?
Right, we're constantly looking forward, right? You're always working actually on 3 budgets at the same time, your prior year, your current year, and your future year. So usually I'll start putting, the solid numbers together by the end of the year, and then we used to do now a special meeting in January, and we introduce the temporary budget.
Okay, thank you. I would say, I know you got the county, the schools, the city. How much say does this, board here have over the teaching budget?
None.
None, okay.
We have absolutely none. So the way that works is
So you're giving me another job.
the school budget, which is the biggest portion of our budget.
I know.
That is strictly raised by, they set their budget. I mean, they do have caps set by the state. But whatever the school board deems their budget is, we by law have to pay them everything, 1 penny of it. So when people say, oh, stuff is, the city's shortchanging or development's shortchanging the school kids, it's not true. Because by law, if the school board tells us they set their budget at $10 million, we have to pay them $10 million. We can't pay them, 900, you just can't do it. You have to pay them exactly by law. So they set their own budget. So, yes, that is the biggest part of your taxes go to the school budget, which is 100% set by the school board with no consideration for us. We're just forced to make the payment as they set it.
Are citizens allowed to go there?
Oh, absolutely you are.
Okay, when do they meet?
They meet twice a month, on Tuesdays, I think.
No, I'll find out.
It's Tuesdays.
So
Yeah,
you're
they have their
giving me
schedule's up
another
online.
job.
It's up online, and it's posted on our bulletin board, at least that's where it was. I don't know if it is during COVID, but usually they send their meetings over to be posted.
I'll share it anyway, because, it's probably applies more to them, but I'm going to date myself here, but I graduated in '61. And at that time, a year ahead of me, I don't know if you've heard of Steve Roberts. He was married to Cokie Roberts. Steve Roberts, pretty prominent in Newsweek or somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard of Elliot Walensky. Elliot Walensky was a valedictorian, graduated the same year I did. Went to medical school. After a couple of years, decided he wanted to get into music. Got dropped out of medical school, became a writer. He wrote some songs for some of the big groups out there. One of them is like one of the top wedding songs they play or whatever. And then there was another, my next door neighbor went to MIT. What am I trying to get at? At that time, if I recall, we had the regular school academic and a tech. We had 1 principal, 2 vice principals. Now I understand you got floor monitors, this monitor, that monitor, making 6-figure salaries. So maybe, I don't know if you know anything about that, but
A lot of state mandates.
Pursue that.
A lot of state mandates associated with that.
I think you should go to the Board of Ed meeting.
The State Board of Education pushes down on the local boards as much as the state of New Jersey pushes down on the local municipalities.
That's why New Jersey is the highest taxes, real estate taxes, median taxes of all the states.
Yeah.
So now I got to go to the state, I guess, right? I can't.
You can go to the school board. They have mandates. I don't know that they have mandates to say how many principals or vice principals you have to have. They do have a lot of paperwork, and I know that added to a lot of the admin because there's more protocols, more filings, more tracking they have to do. But quite honestly, we really get no insight into that other than the same that you do.
It's big government getting more spending, more, we bear the burden, and some people get the benefit of a nice salary, and it's probably unneeded. Like I say, we had good quality people coming out with whatever we had to work at that time. So, thank you for sharing this. A lot I don't know, and it's a learning process for me.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I just want to share anyway about how I do my budget. I've been doing my budget for about 40 years. I do it monthly. I should have been doing it for 10 years prior, because if I was watching my money more I might not have gotten some of the situations I did. So, during those years, I do it monthly. I have things allotted like miscellaneous, fun stuff, camera equipment, naturally the mortgage, the public service, on and on, as best what I known and adjusted over the course of time. So I've done this budget when I had a business, I had an employee, I was servicing national accounts in the design field. Computers came around and it kind of kiboshed me. I went from probably my best salary ever to the following year making $10 an hour working as a cafeteria manager. But I still had a budget. And whatever I made, I had to stay within that budget. In other words, I work, and also, in other words, like right now, I'm facing, not here looking for pity, but I knew I was going to face about $20,000 or $30,000 worth of dental and medical bills. So if you look at my latest budget here, I have 0 allotted for clothing. You probably can tell. I have 0 allotted for gifts. I have 0 allotted for extra money budget. I have $5 for social. But I have $545 allotted for medical. Some people put in envelopes. I keep ledgers.
Mhm.
So I guess I wonder, and I've done a budget when, I've worked for companies, I know everybody wants their raises, and I know you got unions to deal with, but over the course of time, I worked for companies that didn't give you a raise because they had a bad year. I worked for a company that had to cut to 4 days, so I didn't lose my job. And I guess I'm wondering, why can't the city budget work that way? In other words, when I get my tax bill and it's only a couple $100, I feel like, wow, this is a gift. It's not really a gift when you add it up in 40 years. When I first got into my house, it was $1,800 taxes. Now, thank God I appealed them twice, otherwise they would have been over $18,000. So I guess the point is, whatever I was making or not making, I have to cut down somewhere. I have to move monies, like the lady said there. But you never seem to move enough. Now you got to deal with the school, but, when something happens or breaks, you got to adjust it somewhere else. I know, and there's going to be times you're going to get extra funds. But isn't there any way to keep them even? To look at what you got to work with? Like work with what you got? Why does it always have to be an increase?
I think the city portion, Ms. Maurer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there was a 0 increase on the city side this year?
That is correct.
We kept, the city portion of the municipal portion of the budget did not increase, and, that was kind of at the behoof of, we do have to approve it in the end, and that was something that us as a council said, Donna probably wasn't happy, but we said we don't want an increase on the municipal side, so, she had to find creative ways, like you say, of move stuff around, and we did that, but unfortunately, the school board went 2.5, 2%? I don't remember now, it was a couple months ago. And you always have to pay the county. The county went up tremendously for us. We were probably the biggest increase in county taxes we had. Again, we don't have a say in that, we have to pay it. It's set by the county. And then our open space and library, they are what they are by state law, so.
I appreciate that, and like I say, the school is the biggest part. Now, what about the county? Years ago, there was a New Jersey Conservative Party that was running in the one of the elections. They were trying to get a certain percentage of the votes. But one of the things was, I guess, questioning why you need a county. Do we have any duplicative services there? Duplication of services? Does it, that we need to be paying them money for? I'm asking this naive question.
Of course, there's duplication of
That's where the money's
services,
coming from,
we could say that. I mean,
The
they
flip,
provide.
the flip side to that is that the county argues we should take over all the municipal services. The county can do it. But that's what happens in other states. You don't have a lot of municipal services, you have county services. So you're asking the inverse of that question.
Yes, yeah, okay. And can that be done? I put you on the spot.
You're asking to,
Secede from the county.
Take away jobs?
No, but,
it's an elephant, and you have to do it one bite at a time, but it's
Okay.
a big animal.
So, I will say this, I think for the first time in a number of years, Bayonne always got to Cest County, and I always felt that we were like, we didn't all get our share of the county services necessarily. Like the bigger towns got more attention, more of their county roads paved, more of their, their streets. But I think recently, in the last couple of years, Bayonne has seen its, at least some, payback on what we're paying. Like our county park is beautiful.
Yes.
They paved the boulevard. They've been providing what I would consider more services to the city of Bayonne the last, several years than we've gotten in a number of years from the county. I know some of people sitting out there, have some issues with the county as far as, the boulevard and stuff. But I think we're getting more.
Okay.
Of course, we always want more, but things that they provide, then we're not spending our money on, right? Like the park maintenance and all that, that's there. Their police patrol there. They pave the boulevard. They plow the boulevard.
Okay.
They do that. They patrol that with their cops. So, and the county parks. So they do provide services that if they weren't providing, we'd have to be expanding our, our workforce to cover those areas. So we do get, but I'm just saying, I feel like we've been getting more than we have traditionally in the past as far as services from the county.
Thank you for holding the city budget there and, for the learning experience you got here. The chief is here?
Yeah, the police chief and the
Just
fire
a
chief.
suggestion, I don't know if it comes under public service, safety or whatever, but when you go to park, a lot of people now with the parking, they're parking all over the place. But when you go down to 26th Street, they have I don't know what the proper, is it, they'll call the lady, it's not the traffic ticket lady or whatever. But
The meter maids?
Yeah,
Or
but
the
she stands
crossing guard?
outside the post
The
office.
crossing guard?
And by her standing there, nobody's going to park there. Why not put her inside? Then when these people come over and park their car and run over to get a bagel, come right out and give them a ticket. You go to New York, it's bad in New York. I've seen one time they had 6 cops where they crossed you can't block the thing. As soon as somebody's blocked, there's no questions asked or whatever. No, but I'm saying it's a shame with people that you have to almost be like a babysitter so they don't do something wrong. I'm a big believer in consequences. Start giving somebody a ticket for that. They ain't going to get a bagel next time, or they're going to park a block away. Having her stand there, you talked about, I think, Gary, last time you had to talk to the public safety about having funds for somebody in 49th. I mean, if we're paying this lady funds to stand there, maybe she writes a few tickets, you'll pay for her. So, just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Morris.
Oh, I didn't even see.
Good evening, Mike Morris, 123 Avenue C, Bayonne. I have 2 issues. I'd rather get rid of this one first. I have a concern with the enforcement of unkept properties in Bayonne throughout the entire city. Enforcement is not taking place. You have large developers who consistently come before the boards looking for tax abatements for projects while they still have empty lots in various parts of the town and our neighborhoods. And they do this with the least of regard to us taxpayers. I right now am in the middle of an empty lot at the corner of 5th Street and Avenue C. Totally out of control, no enforcement. And then at the corner of 4th Street and Avenue C, with a building owned by the same individual. Sidewalks are in absolute total disrepair in a school zone. And I can prove it. I have over 100 pictures of it. I finally was able to get Tom Case to come down to have that situation, to some degree, remediated to have the weeds that were growing up through the concrete throughout the entire property. My suggestion is this. When they come in looking for tax abatements, first make sure that their various vacant and unkept lots are in order before their tax abatements are approved. Turn them back. Don't entertain them anymore. They'll understand what it means. We don't deserve to live like this. I can take you through various parts of the city, every single block, every single neighborhood. Tired of looking at it. I'm really tired of it. I had a conversation last year with Neil Carroll and with you, Sharon, and you reacted very quickly, and I appreciated that, within 24 hours, because I was initially told that first we have to send out a letter. That takes 7 days, possibly even 10 more days thereafter. That's not acceptable. It should be 7 days and 7 days only. If you can't maintain your property, you don't deserve a tax abatement.
Mike, can I just say something? We agree on that, and I have a problem with that, and I brought it up with the law department, because they consider each letter in each instance a new 10 days. So we try to effectuate something that would say, no, you don't get, every chance is not another first chance, where you get 10 days, and then you get a warning, and then you get a fine, so that once you're a habitual offender, I want to be able to fine them right away, not go wait this whole 10 days, because, you know, when you're the neighbor, you know, so you know, once, for 1 week out of every month, you got the land maintained, and then the rest of it, it's a mess, and then they get another written warning, and they get 10 days, and then they fix it after 15 days, and then, so we did try to figure out a way around that, but legally, and I don't really know that we came up with a solution, right?
It was less a legal problem than it was a practical solution, to track the recidivists, the first, second, and third violators. Takes a lot of manpower, and we'd have to be inputting a lot more into our SDL program. I guess it could be done manually, but it's a heavy lift. But from a fix the problem standpoint, that's the way to go about it.
For years, I've had repeat offenders who don't take care of the same empty lots. They've been empty for 20 years, 30 years. I've been trying to get New Jersey Transit to take care of the properties behind the homes on Avenue E, and every year I got to go out of my way and contact them, and they said, let me get to it, and we need to have an inspector look at it. It's repeat offenders, but you don't expect the 800-pound gorilla company like New Jersey Transit to do this every year, but they put me through this every year, and they put those homeowners through this every single year. It's not fair. I've been to the law department in years past. This council has tried, and I don't know what the problem is, if it's loopholes in the legal system or whatever, but some of those same empty lots that have been empty for 30 years are problems. And we shouldn't have to start a 10-day, these people get a warning and they get 10 days to, every year they go through this thing. So why do we have to do a 10-year thing? I don't know. I would love to try and change something about it, because for the repeat offender, it's not fair for us to have to look at that. So
We're in agreement.
I make a
We'll have
challenge
to-
that we try and do something to change that.
You know, they put the extra effort in, the extra 10 minutes per complaint and track.
But
the
it's not,
frequency.
it's just not fair to everybody, and it's not even fair for us trying to do something about it and having our hands tied.
And a lot of these properties are owned by LLCs that are not in town. We get a judgment against them. Anything that we, not a judgment, we get a lien against their property, but it's just against the property. And we fall prey to trying to bring someone into court. Somebody shows up as a representative of the LLC, but it's not the individual that's in control of making decisions. Now, we haven't had court in, live court in a year and a half, just about. But there are a whole host of practical considerations that come into play with these, I'll call them zombie properties, where they know that the max they can be fined is $1,250. It's worth it for them to wait 3 months, get the notice, and then they spend $800 on the one-time cleanup of their property. It's a cost-benefit analysis from, I guess, that they're performing. We are having some success now with contacting lien holders and having the lien holders clean up properties. And there is a statute that allows for that. We have to, essentially, we have to determine and demonstrate that a property is abandoned, and we use our fire official for the most part to certify that, and we can get lien holders to come and then clean up. I know that we're doing one this week where the lien holder asks for a certification from the city to demonstrate that the property is, for statutory purposes, abandoned. It's a place where I think a husband and wife died they were older and they died in quick succession, and the children haven't taken care of the estate, and the lien holder is going to come and clean up the property. But there are property owners that know what they can get away with, and they perform a cost-benefit analysis, say, okay, yeah, I can get the potential for a $1,200 fine. If I cut the grass every week during the summer, it's going to cost me $7,000. I'll pay the $1,250 fine, pay the $800 to have it cleaned up once and call it a day, and when November comes along, I don't have to worry about anything anymore. That's not an excuse, it's just an explanation.
Well, getting back to one particular point, these developers that we know who own these empty lots, if they come before the boards looking for a tax abatement, it's my opinion that they should not be even entertained until they go back, clean up the messes that they have ongoing on their empty lots, and then come back. Let it cost them some attorney fees there. At least we know we're going to get some money out of them.
Agreed.
The other thing, again, when I spoke to Neil Carroll last summer about a particular property on Hobart Avenue and George Street, it was unbelievable. The answer I got was, well, he has to get 7 days, 10 days notice, whatever, possibly more, yada, yada, yada. No, needs to be corrected now because it's been an ongoing situation. People are walking around with blinders there. If you need more people, hire more people. The fines will pay for at least 2 more inspectors, I'm sure. I went to Sharon, called her. She guaranteed me, she kept her word. It'll be taken care of within 24 hours. It was. I appreciated that. And again, it's a consistent problem down at that particular area every year. Again, LLC, absentee landlord. So it needs to be corrected. Bayonne's better than that. We're allowing these developers, these absentee landlords, to literally turn our town upside down. It looks dirty. I hate to say it, but it does look dirty. I see it every day. I understand that we're going through a phase of reconstruction, redevelopment, which is good. We need that. But again, it has to be done the right way. I can say this, and I really want to put great emphasis on this. Never have I seen any project that the Alessi organization has done in Bayonne ever look like any of these properties. They set the standard. They set the example for these developers. And we allow these particular developers, I don't need to mention their names, but I know who they are, to get away with it. And I'm tired of it. I'm a taxpayer, and many of us are taxpayers here. We deserve better. We are better. This is what makes Bayonne better. We should never lower the standard. It should never, ever happen. Now, one other thing that I'd like to address is the Hurricane Ida issue. I lost all my notes, but I'm pretty much on key with what's going on. I would really like to thank the Bayonne Police Department, the Bayonne Fire Department, the chiefs, the mayor, anyone that was involved, and especially the dispatchers that night, anyone involved in this fiasco. I listened to the scanner all night long. I was just so enthralled in it that I couldn't turn it off. What baffled me so was how did they prioritize the calls that were coming in. They were unbelievable. people stranded on 33rd and Avenue Way in their cars, then on their cars, having to be rescued by fireboats. Individuals trapped in a basement apartment. A Bayonne firefighter rescued this man and his handicapped son out of this apartment. They would have drowned. This firefighter had this individual on his shoulders where the water was up to the top of his neck. It's unbelievable. You can't say thank you enough. You can't even explain the type of heroes that these individuals are and the value that they are to our city. Which leads me back to when people questioned the budgets about the police and fire department. They're worth every penny. I thank them every day that they're here. And, it's just amazing. People's homes underwater where the water was up over the electrical panels in the basement, and these firefighters went into these buildings. They did it in such an unselfish and heroic way that, to me, again, I have to use the word, it's baffling. I can't understand it. I wouldn't have wanted to have done that, but we owe them an absolute gratitude that we can never, ever repay. They're important. They are a great part of the fabric of this entire city. And whatever the cost to us as taxpayers, they're well worth it. You can never convince me otherwise. So I just want to say, again, thank you. I appreciate all of you. To me, you're the greatest. And I'm thankful that you're here. And
We'll
may
give a
God
round
bless
of
all of you.
applause
Thank
for
you.
our cops and firemen. We all agree with you. We all extend our thanks to cops, firemen, EMS, and I'm glad Mike mentioned the radio room people because they were really put to a test that night. And of course, they performed flawlessly like we've come to expect of them, but we definitely need to show our gratitude. So thank you to them, and make sure they know that, Director, that we are thanking them also.
Name that street after them instead of a developer.
Okay, anybody else, Madeline? Is there anybody online? I don't know. I don't think we have anybody online, do we?
There are two hands raised online. I'm going to unmute Peter Franco.
Good evening, City Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. All right, I just want Peter Franco, 109 West 53rd Street. I want to thank all the speakers this evening. Many of you sacrificed your time, friends, work, to be in attendance and speak about issues that are affecting you and our community, and you really deserve recognition for all your efforts. It's a great thing to see more people in Bayonne caring about this community. So I'm here to speak tonight about good old boy Owen, and the actions of a city employee and what I believe to be discrimination and political retaliation directed by the mayor and his colleagues. There are plenty of examples that I highlighted online, but tonight we learned that the windmill had been down for 15 months, hundreds of $1,000s gone with the wind, and this is the first time our council president and council members are hearing of this. Most recently, we had an employee, the director of OEM, Junior Ferranti, and Mayor Davis's personal paparazzi, live streaming a 9/11 memorial event on Facebook. And he deliberately turns away from the council president and walks far enough that we could not hear her remarks during the ceremony. Coincidence? Maybe if the video panned away after the mayor's statement. However, Ferranti returned to cover the remarks of Councilman Juan Perez. This was an official city page broadcasting a memorial for those who could not attend. If it was Ferranti's personal page, he would have every right to film whatever he felt. But as a city employee on the job performing a duty, he had an obligation to film the remarks of all the speakers. And it's not simply this event. As we heard earlier tonight, the council president is left in the dark on some things. This isn't about a photo op. This is about equal treatment and respect for the highest legislator of the city. Despite how the council president votes, or what direction she is rowing, Mr. J. Coffey, we have a right to hear from her just as much as every other person who spoke that evening. Political retaliation is commonplace in Bayonne, but a memorial service honoring the men and women we lost 20 years ago is not a place to play politics. Junior Ferranti should be ashamed of himself and anybody who instructed him to do what he did that evening. I would like to ask of all of the representatives whether you feel that this was professional. Was this appropriate? And how would you feel if you were on the receiving end of this? Councilman Carroll, how would you feel in this aspect?
I would feel like the 20th anniversary of 9/11 was not a time to make the issue about me, is how I would feel.
I respect that and appreciate that, Councilman Carroll. Councilman LaPalooza.
I could write a book on retaliation. And I started as an independent, not running with the mayor. And I'm telling you, I've had many administrations do things to me. As far as that film, I've heard about it but have not seen it. So I'm not going to make a comment on something that I have not seen. But I know what retaliation is. And even when I ran with the mayor, I was cut out of a bunch of pictures. People put things online, but I felt that people would think that I was a crybaby if I came out and said something. So I didn't say it. I ate it. And I think it was better because people who consider themselves advocates would like to put that on their blog. That's why I didn't do it.
Councilman Galais.
I just think it's wrong, that's all. On both sides. Political or not political.
I mean, I agree. I think there's absolutely no place for that, in that aspect. Councilman Perez, how do you feel? What if that was you on the receiving end? I mean, they actually came back and filmed you, but they left the council president out for some reason.
This was not about the council president. This was not about me. This was about the people who died on 9/11. To pay respect to them. It's not made political. This is about respect for the people who died on 9/11. These poor souls, all right?
You know, and I agree with you 100%. Why we should have had the right to hear from our council president during the 9/11 memorial. There's no reason, you know what I mean? And we know this. Like, let's stop splitting hairs here in the idea of this. We know that this was clearly obvious. You have Junior Ferranti, who is on the job, who is the mayor's personal paparazzi, who has actually taken photos and then cropped Sharon out of the photos. I mean, this is, and now we're at a memorial service, you know what I mean, to recognize all of the people lost. And wouldn't you think, I mean, when you look at the mayor is the executive of the city. The council president is the top legislator of the city. There's equal respect in that. And it's almost like it was not shown to our council president. And we, as viewers who weren't able to attend, should have had the right to hear from our council president. And I just think it's gross that politics has no, there's no show-off, right? There's no place where, in Bayonne, where ultimately it's like, no, it's always got to be political. It's always got to be a personal attack. It's always got to be something negative. And, I got to tell you, there was plenty of people that I talked to that had mentioned this to me and said I was watching this and I was waiting to hear the council president's comments, and then Junior takes the camera from an official page. He's a city employee. And he takes the camera and he goes off to the side and has conversations and stuff like that. I think it was completely disrespectful. I think he owes the council president and the people of Bayonne an apology for what he did. I think this is so gross. To any of the females, serving, whether elected or hired through the city, I wonder how they would feel about this. It was gross. It was really unfair, unfortunate, and to do that, to play politics at a 9/11 memorial, you really have to check yourself personally. That's my comments for this evening.
Thank you.
All right, the next hand I'm gonna, or person I'm gonna unmute is George Ramirez.
Good evening. Last month, it was disclosed that attorney Alan Roth is conducting an investigation into the separation agreement between a former employee and the city. It was also disclosed that attorney Alan Roth has current business with the city. That is a clear conflict of interest. You are asking attorney Alan Roth to investigate the very administration that is providing for his livelihood. Switching topics. Stephanie Glover Wilson is right. Bayonne did her wrong. First, they took the name Bayonne Food Bank from her. And then, Melissa Matthews, the business administrator, changed the name from Bayonne Food Bank to the Melissa Matthews Foundation while working as a city employee, using the name Bayonne to promote herself. That is absolutely wrong. I want to end on a positive note. Our first responders did a great job during Ida. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
We have one more hand raised, Damon Galano. One moment.
Mr. Galano, are you there?
Damon, you are self-muted at this point.
Mr. Galano, you have to unmute yourself. While we try to figure out what Mr. Galano's technical issues are, I'm going to, Madeline, do you mind I'm going to ask Mr. Santini, our animal control officer. He's here to talk about something later on the agenda, but I'm going to ask him, because we're going to table that tonight, so I'm going to ask you, in respect of your time, to, you can have your say now, if you would like.
Good afternoon, Council. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Santini. I'm here on behalf of the New Jersey Humane Society. I'm a humane law enforcement officer. We're trying to start this TNR program for the first time in Bayonne, which I applaud everybody and yourselves doing that, and the mayor putting this program together. But at this time, I was also going to ask to table it because we need to put together with the health department all the rescues who want to be involved in this. The money is only $25,000, so it's going to be stretched as thin as possible and only be used for the feral cats, for spaying, neutering, and rescuing the animals. We do have a lot of rescues in this town, and we all want to be on the same page. So there's no, why are you doing 10 cats here? Why are you doing 15 cats over here? What am I getting? It's not what you're getting, it's how we can put it all together and make it work. Because if it works, more money can be allocated towards the TNR. I know we talked about a lot of things tonight with the police and fire, I agree with everybody with that, but the animals are also important in your municipality, and you do have a feral cat problem here that we need to address.
Absolutely.
Not just ignore, because it's not going away. So if you can table it and let it go a longer time, it would be great. I'm also asking, I was with Sharon, we looked at a building on 16th Street. Has there been any further advancement to find out if there's a water supply, or that building cannot be used, and we can look at different avenues for different buildings to keep the cats, which everybody wants something in Bayonne. So that's my only question tonight.
I think Mr. Cotter did look about, I know you said all you needed was water to be, we talked about what you needed, but the main thing would be getting water.
We need water in the building.
Because it's just a small little building, but it'd be
Yes.
enough to house the female cats
It would help.
overnight.
It would help the
Help
treatment of
defer the
cats, yeah.
cost.
And it would help the people in Bayonne too, because it's a local facility, instead of them trucking up to West New York.
Yeah, Mr. Cotter had looked and said it would be
Yeah, we're trying to
possible.
locate the water line to see if we can get water to that building. That building also doesn't have heat, so.
Can you let the rest of the council know where that
So
building is?
This was it's at 16th
16th
Street
Street.
Park down the bottom. It's the boathouse, it's called. It's at the very bottom of the parking lot. It's, I don't know, it's tiny. It's, what I don't know, I'm not good
It's like
at
a
size.
shed almost,
It's like a
right?
shed.
Okay.
It's like a shed.
8 by 10 on the inside, 8 by 12.
Yeah, but it had a
It can be
window.
expanded.
And it had a window, and that it was somewhere to start to get the program going, because we felt like, as you're well aware, Mr. La Palusa, because you were an advocate for this, we tried to get this program up a number of times, and we have the money allocated, and the thought process is if we don't start somewhere, even if it's a tiny little thing, and right now, we're going to start it where we're probably going to house them off-site at one of your other locations, the cost is more. The inconvenience to the people who are volunteering their time for that is also into consideration, but I feel if we get started, as we all know, then they can ask for their corporate sponsors and more money that they can get to help grow it. And that is the idea, as once as we get something started out there, it'll be able to grow with outside donations.
Yes.
And I'm in favor of it. I've been to your place of business. I know the place in 16th, I just didn't know that you were
Yeah.
looking into that, because nobody had told me. I don't know if the rest of the council heard, but I didn't know. I would be in favor of expanding to a bigger shed, let's say, just to start off with, and I was the one who advocated for actually more money, making it $25,000.
Thank you.
So,
He got you that extra five.
mhm.
No, yeah, we would go over anywhere. They were just looking for something that was already existent, and that's been used. It was used for feeding the cats at a colony already. There was cat medical supplies in there and stuff. That's what it had been being used for at some point. There's hay in there and all sorts of
Is
stuff.
that one of the ones that was at the park?
I
by
think, yes.
MTT? All right.
They were caring for a colony somewhere at one point, I think behind the A&P at one time.
It's a start. It could be expanded, but we have to be able to implement it and do it right, so it doesn't become a disaster, and then everybody says, oh, it didn't work, let's forget about it. So I want to try to do it right, go through the health department and put all these rescues together and put everybody's knowledge into it.
Okay, so I agree. So you're asking us to table this
Absolutely.
until we get more,
Definitely.
you get more cohesive plan, get all the parties together and.
We need to
and-
put all the parties together so there's no infighting and there's no North Korea, South Korea with the cats.
Okay, okay.
And Mr. Santini and I have been talking fairly regularly about trying to get this as tight as possible.
Yes, we want to keep it as tight as possible. We want it to work.
Yes,
So next year, there could be sponsors, there could be more money allocated. Again, we just want it to work. And to get
Understood.
it to work, it has to be prepared correctly. Without preparation, we're going to fail.
okay, agreed. We will table it and give you the additional time that you need to work with. I know two of the big advocates and volunteers are here
Those
to
are your
get that
two
done.
biggest TNR in Bayonne, and they sacrifice their time with their families. They go out in the snow, the heat, they take money out of their own pocket. They're amazing.
Yes, they are, so,
Phyllis and Kathleen, if everybody knows who they are.
yes. Okay.
Thank you very much.
We will table that, and thank you.
Thank you for giving me time. Have a good night.
And Jeff, like I said, when I talked to you on Friday, our biggest problem where the location is near a park is that we shut our water off
Yeah, we
usually
discussed
October
Oh.
1st. And so finding a water supply and then a heat source, well, that's what we're going to need. So we're going to look into possibly trying to tap off of that bathroom to run.
We discussed. I've been
We
working-
don't know what we're going to find underground.
As far as
And then-
heat, there's electric in the building, so we could get an electric heater, which is safe for the animals. Doesn't have to be vented, it's electric, it's fine. So there's no gas going to the building, but as long as we get some water, again, this building's a start, maybe something else changes, but we want to start it, but we want to do it right. We just don't want to jump into there and say, oh, let's jump out. Let's jump into there, and if it can be expanded, which we saw, there's 2 trailers in the property next to it. If those 2 trailers are removed and we ever expanded this building and this program worked, this would be a nice location because it's away from people. It's in a beautiful setting, and we can make it really nice. We just have to put it together right and prepare.
I don't think we can use it
We'll take any money.
for that. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter, for all your help also.
Oh,
a good
Kathleen,
night.
she went to add up with that.
Hi, Kathleen Henderson. I just want to add that,
Okay, can you hold on 1 second, Juan? Someone else is speaking.
I just want to add that as one of the rescues, Bayonne Feral, it's really very important that we have the facility here rather than have to transport, because as Mr. Santini said, the time, the cost, it just eats up the money that is available for the cats. And we can get the volunteers. There are plenty of people that want to do this TNR with us. They will volunteer to take care of the cats in that building. It will work out for everybody. But I'm telling you, the people in Bayonne are not going to want to traipsize to West New York. It's got to be here. It's got to be here. So please, Mr. Carter, please work on that water because it's so important. We got to get these cats done. We got to start.
Well, just like we worked with the A&P colony, and I remember we were driving out, we had to go out to Hillside to do all the spay and neuter for all the cats that we caught down there. And that program wound up being successful. All those cats relocated, and everything worked fine. But it takes time in order to do it right. We don't want to do it haphazardly and then have a problem.
I know, but we just need to get started, and the winter is coming. The winter is coming. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Juan, did the person online, Mr. Galano, unmute?
The last hand has been lowered, so we no longer have anybody with a hand raised.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. 05 is an ordinance for introduction. It's an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, approving a financial agreement by and between the City of Bayonne and Madroga Chosen Urban Renewal LLC for the property located at Chosen Few Way, which is identified as Block 751, lots 1.15 and 1.11. And a resolution moved by the Council President fixing Wednesday, October 20th at 7 p.m. in the Dorothy E. Harrington Council Chambers as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye. Can I, yes, sir. Did you want to talk on that? On that ordinance? Okay, sorry. Oh, it's only on for introduction, the financial agreement.
Hi, my name is John Yado. I live at 30 East 50th Street, and I wanted to tell you that these guys did a very good job with the storm. And I want to make sure that they get money. Been doing a good job, the firemen and the police department and the dispatchers upstairs. Anyway, I wanted to tell you that I live at 30 East 50th Street, and John Mainhorn is a very good guy, takes good care of the building, fixes it up good, and he's a very good guy.
We
And the
agree.
maintenance guys are good. That's all I wanted to let you know.
Thank you. We agree. The Bayonne Housing Authority
They do a
director,
good job
they're all
cleaning
good.
up.
Yes, their
And I
staff is
slipped and
great.
fell in the bathtub about a couple of weeks ago, and my friend Chicky told me to go to the hospital. I said, nah. And my friend Dana, I said, nah. Anyway, Richie, that works for housing, he told me to go, and I went, and he said, how'd you make out, John? I said, good. He said, go, because you might have bleeding on the brain, you know? I didn't have nothing like that. These maintenance guys are good. They watch out for us.
Thank you. We're glad to hear that.
Yeah. And John Maynard, if it wasn't for him to take over, those buildings would be, forget it. Jonesy spent the money, didn't do nothing.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
So I wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Okay. The next item is an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, to adopt the official street name for the new roadway located at in the Bayonne Maritime District. of the Peninsula at Bayonne Harbor, and resolution moved by Councilmember Perez, fixing Wednesday, October 20th as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. Ms. Nadrowski, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Madeline 07, I spoke to our redevelopment council, and we received a letter from council for the developer, and we're going to look to hold this off until, and introduce it in October.
08 is an ordinance approving the financial agreement by and between the City of Bayonne and Woodmount Bayonne Phase 2 Urban Renewal LLC for the property located at 52nd Street, which is identified as Block 37, Lot 1, and a resolution moved by Councilmember La Palusa, fixing Wednesday, October 20th as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
09 is an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 3, Police Regulations, and a resolution moved by Councilmember La Palusa, fixing Wednesday, October 20th as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. Ms. Nadrowski, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
010 is an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 7, Traffic, and a resolution moved by Councilmember Perez, fixing Wednesday, October 20th as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. This is deleting 3 restricted parking zones. Ms. Nadrowski, will you second?
Second.
On the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Consent resolution is moved by the council as a whole. It orders the warrants be received and filed. It covers C1 through C13. Are there any questions on the communications? No questions on the consent resolutions, on the communications. Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Officer's report is from Donna L. Mauer, Chief Financial Officer, reporting on vendor payments and recommending payment of the same, and a resolution adopting the recommendations and ordering payment of the claims. Who'd like to move it?
Move it.
And a second?
Second.
And on the officer's report, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Consent resolutions is moved by the council as a whole. It covers CR1 through CR22, and it orders the resolutions within it to be adopted. Are there any questions on the consent resolutions?
So Madeline, we wanted to read CR 19 separately, if we
Okay.
could.
And what number is this?
And CR20.
CR20.
We're just going to read them in full.
Okay. Jay will read those because I do not have those.
Go ahead,
So we're going to remove those two first. Any questions on the remaining consent resolutions? And on the Sure.
I just want to speak on the Community Development Block Grant, and just to let you all know that Bayonne continues to receive this funding. Our program continues to be in a good way with HUD. The more Bayonne improves and things grow in Bayonne, HUD has a formula that demonstrates the less money is needed. I don't know if people realize that or not. And as a result, what you're seeing, a lot of our agencies are receiving an additional $60,000 less this year in spite of COVID, and things such as that. But I like to let that information be known on how HUD allocates and, and delves out the funding when it comes to what the City of Bayonne receives. And this year we did receive a $60,000 cut based on the improvements and the the impact that Bayonne is having on itself, and according to HUD standard, is sustaining itself and in need of less money, so.
I have a question. We took a big hit on your CDBG under Trump, when Trump was there, right? You lost a lot. Did we get most of that back?
We did not. We did not. And I don't think that unless the president does draconian cuts through the program, they typically do the formulas.
Okay.
Actually, we sustain less, we actually gain more during that time
I thought
frame.
there was a talk
And
about that.
yes, and based on those few gains, this year, we took a $60,000 cut from the year prior, which was under the Trump administration, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And BUF's hiring, right? So if anyone's looking for work, I know they've been advertising.
Yes, we are hiring.
And it's in Bayonne, and Sam's a fabulous boss to work for.
Yes.
So.
Thank you.
Okay, and on the consent resolutions, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
CR 19 is dedicating West 52nd Street to Jack Graham, a lifelong resident of West 52nd Street and a Vietnam veteran, and renaming West 52nd Street Jack Graham Way.
So, I happen to know Jack Graham, his wife, and his sister-in-law, and they had come to me. He's already with the, in the Bayonne High School Heroes, and if I could read the resolution, it'll explain a little bit about why he's the recipient of this and why we think he's very well deserved. So whereas Jack Graham resided on 52nd Street between Broadway and Avenue C for close to 76 years, and whereas Jack Graham graduated from Bayonne High School in 1965 and served our country in the United States Air Force from 1965 through 1969, serving in Vietnam with the 300th Tactical Fighter Squadron, and was awarded the Bronze Star with a V for Valor for his heroism and unselfish dedication during a Viet Cong attack on the Da Nang Air Base. And whereas Jack Graham led a long and fruitful life in Bayonne upon his return from military service, giving generously of his time as a member of the American Legion and as a coach and as president of the Bayonne Youth Soccer Association while raising his children, Justin and Devin, with his wife Florence. And whereas Sergeant First Class Jack Graham was inducted into the Bayonne High School Field of Heroes in 2018, an honor which he was very proud to have bestowed upon him. And whereas Jack Graham passed away on July 6th, 2021, and the city of Bayonne would be remiss if it did not take the time to recognize this wonderful individual for his outstanding military service to our country and the impact that he had on the city of Bayonne through his volunteerism. And whereas the city of Bayonne is a better place because of Jack Graham, and whereas it is incumbent upon the city of Bayonne to ensure that his wife, his children, and his grandchildren, Justin, Jacqueline, Joviana, and Cadence, know that the city is forever in debt to them for allowing Jack Graham to give so much of his time to the betterment of society as a whole. And whereas the city of Bayonne wants all the world to know that Jack Graham's contributions should be remembered for generations to come. Now therefore be it resolved that West 52nd Street between Broadway and Avenue C hereinafter shall be known as Jack Graham Way in his honor. And I just want to add something that's not in the resolution, that he really was a model American and he believed in service above self. So with that, I make the motion that that we approve this.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
With great pride, aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
CR 20 is dedicating the lower portion of the 16th Street Park to Detective Joseph Seals, who was fatally wounded while on duty, and renaming the lower portion Detective Joseph Seals Way.
I will read this resolution in full as it's warranted, and this was a follow-up to a ceremony that was held last Friday at 16th Street Park honoring Joseph Seals, and it was very well put together, very well attended. State Police Mounties came, and Jersey City Police and sheriff's officers. It was a tribute to Joe's dedication. So whereas Joseph P. Seals, a detective with the Jersey City Police Department, was killed in the line of duty on December 10, 2019, and whereas Joseph P. Seals was raised in Bayonne, attended Bayonne High School, and will always be considered a son of the city of Bayonne, and whereas the tragic and untimely death of Joseph P. Seals is a reminder of how fragile our lives are, and more importantly, that there are people like Detective Joseph P. Seals who are willing to put their lives on the line for us each and every day so that we can enjoy the freedoms and liberties we so hold so dear and value so much in America. And whereas the actions of Joseph P. Seals leading to his death on December 10, 2019, helped to avoid additional people being killed that day. And whereas Joseph P. Seals' 18 years of law enforcement service is something to be admired and honored. And whereas the city of Bayonne is desirous of recognizing the impact that Joseph P. Seals had upon all of us, all police officers, and a police officer and a human being. And whereas the city of Bayonne believes that both the life and death of Detective Joseph P. Seals should be remembered by the public, and to ensure that those who knew and loved him, that his life, death, and contributions to society will not be forgotten. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the access road leading to the foot of West 16th Street Park shall herein be known as Joseph P. Seals Way, and be it further resolved that an engraved granite bench shall be set along Joseph P. Seals Way and shall be dedicated in his honor.
Would you like to move that as a whole?
Yes, please.
And on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Absolutely aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
He gave the ultimate sacrifice during his service for all the citizens, so I vote aye.
Mr. Perez.
Very proud to say aye.
And Ms. Nadrowski.
Absolutely aye.
R1 is approving Chapter 159, Number 1, in the calendar year 2021 budget, which is seeking permission of the Division of Local Government Services to approve the insertion of items of revenue. Would like to move it?
Move
Move
it.
it. Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
R2
is
being
pulled.
withdrawn, yes. R3 is designating Bayview JV LLC as the redeveloper for the property identified as Block 300.01, Lots 1, 2, and 3, Blocks 301.03, Lots 2 and 3, and Block 511, Lot 1, as shown on the official tax map of the city, and authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement with Bayview JV LLC.
Move it.
And on that resolution,
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
R4 is designating 7 Hook Road Urban Renewal LLC as the redeveloper for the property located at 7 Hook Road, which is identified as Block 479, Lot 1, as shown on official tax map of the city, and authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement with 7 Hook Road Urban Renewal LLC. It's moved by Councilmember La Palusa. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
R5 is authorizing and directing the planning board to conduct a preliminary investigation to determine whether certain property located at Block 465, Lot 1, 466, Lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4, Block 478, Lots 1 and 1.01, as shown on the official tax map of the city, constitutes an area of need of redevelopment pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law. It's moved by the council president. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
R6 is ratifying and affirming the actions of the mayor and/or the city clerk in executing an agreement with Immediate Care Walk-In Management LLC and Urban Care Physicians of New Jersey LLC to provide COVID-19 testing services for the residents and employees on Tuesdays and Thursdays for a period of commencing September 2nd, 2021 through April 8, 2022, for a total contract amount not to exceed $157,500.
Move it.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
R7 is designating Woodmount Bayonne Phase 2 Urban Renewal LLC as the redevelopment for the property located at West 52nd Street and is identified as Block 37, Lot 1, and authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement with Woodmount Bayonne Phase 2 Urban Renewal LLC.
And just for the record, that came in as a misspelling. It should be Woodmont, M-O-N-T.
Okay.
Move it.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
R8 is authorizing the mayor and/or his designee and the city clerk to take any and all steps to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate a shared services agreement in substance and form as approved by the law director between the Bayonne Board of Education and the city of Bayonne for the collection of solid waste at various Bayonne Board of Education locations for a period of 1 year, for a period retroactive to January 1st through December 31st, 2023, in the amount of $104,000.
And there have been, before we move that, there have been a lot of discussions over the past 2 days with Director Cotter and myself and the school board, and the actual number for that is $325,000, and I believe it was approved by the Finance Committee of the Board of Education in furtherance of tonight. So it's not 104, because they're going to go to 5 days a week, pick up there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we arrived at a figure of $325,000 for those services.
And I'm hoping this will solve a lot of problems, because I've gotten a lot of complaints in the last 2 months about the garbage and how it's being put out in the schools, and it definitely has an effect on the neighborhood, so I'm hoping this will help.
I totally agree with you, Gary. I have to call Mr. Lopez several times on the school right next to my house where they just dump the garbage all over. It's on the floor, it's on the street, and but he does a good job of calling, and they come and clean it up.
Okay.
This is going to have the garbage picked up every night at every school. So this way there won't be an overabundance of school. As long as they put it out properly, we'll be able to pick it up, so it shouldn't be a problem.
And who would like to move it?
I'll move it.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
R9 is amending Resolution 17-07-19069 to replace the Director of Public Works with the Director of Municipal Services as the city official authorized to execute any and all documents on behalf of the city in furtherance of any and all sanitary sewer applications submitted to the state of New Jersey.
Move it.
Second.
On the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye. Getting ahead of myself.
R10 is similar. It's amending Resolution 1705-17-058 to replace the Superintendent of the Department of Public Works with the Director of Municipal Service as the city official authorized to execute any and all documents on behalf of the city in furtherance of any and all sanitary sewer applications submitted to the state by developers in connection with redevelopment and other city projects.
Move it.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
R11 is authorizing the mayor and his designees to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Borough of East Newark, the Town of Harrison, the City of Jersey City, the Town of Kearney, the City of Newark, Township of North Bergen, and the City of Patterson, setting forth the minimum conditions of coordinated lobbying effects to obtain funding for the regional long-term control plan by the combined sewers overflow municipalities in the Passaic Valley Commission Sewerage District.
So moved.
Question on this. because I'm not clear what it is. Mr. Boyle, so it says for lobbying, so are we hiring a lobbyist? Are we paying, are we going to be paying, are we hiring a lobbying firm? I'm not really sure. I got the other two, but I'm not really sure. And I kind of discussed it.
This is the part of the problem,
Sorry.
This is the negotiation that, that you wanted to handle, we're negotiating with the larger group of CSO communities. So this is the result of that negotiation. And the effort here is so that the 8 CSO communities that are part of Passaic Valley Sewage Commission are on the same page with our state and federal representatives.
Okay, so
So rather than being bombarded from 8 different communities, all working out and through PVSC, they wanted to have a more of a form letter with a multi-signature signature page.
So it's not, it's you guys doing it, the communities, it's not like we're hiring a lobbying firm, somebody to go out there and do that?
No, the verbiage would be agreed upon by the participants of the group.
So it's just like some of the, when you guys went and did the presentation, you did it all together and you, so, okay. Understood, completely understood. I just was, the word lobbying in there kind of, coordinated lobbying efforts. I didn't, to obtain funding, I didn't know if we were hiring a lobbying firm to do that. But it's
Not
just
at the moment.
strictly communications and stuff like that. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Perez moved it. Who'd like the second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais. Aye. Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Okay, I have 2 add-ons, actually.
3.
It's an agreement amending the agreement number CY 21068 with Altice Media Sales to correct the scrivener's error and set forth the contract amount at $30,596, and it shall be chargeable to the accounts Bayonne UEZ 50% and the Special Improvement District account 50%.
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Next, add-on number 2 has been removed. Add 3 is a bond ordinance providing for various 16th Street park improvements by and between the city of Bayonne and the county of Hudson, state of New Jersey, and it's appropriating $1,500,000, therefore including a grant from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection Green Acres Program, and authorizing the issuance of $750,000 in bonds or notes of the city to finance part of a cost thereof, and a resolution fixing Wednesday, October 20th as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. Who'd like to move it?
So move.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
It's an ordinance, right?
It's an ordinance, but it's a resolution.
Yeah, no, I
setting
know,
the-
I'm just, because we still have a question, we didn't, just
Okay.
got it, so I want to make sure we
Right,
have
yeah.
next month to get the details.
Right. Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And in connection with that ordinance is from Donna L. Mauer, submitting the supplemental debt statement as of September 22nd, 2021. Who'd like to move it?
So move.
Me too.
On that one, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais? Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Okay. R12 at present will go to the end of the meeting. There are additional add-ons.
First is a resolution to go out to bid again for alterations to the Bayonne Economic Opportunity Foundation, formerly Holy Family. Madeline, I'll read it in full.
Sure.
Whereas the City of Bayonne received bids for alterations to Bayonne Economic Opportunity Foundation, formerly Holy Family, rebid number 2 on June 10, 2021, and whereas said bids were rejected insofar as the lowest bid substantially exceeded the cost estimates for the goods and services sought, and B, the lowest bid substantially exceeded the city's appropriation for the goods and services sought, Whereas subsequent negotiations under the applicable provisions of the local public contracts law proved fruitless, and is now necessary to modify the bid specification to advertise for bids consistent with the modified bid specifications. Now therefore be it resolved by the Municipal Council of the City of Bayonne, New Jersey as follows. Section 1, the city clerk is hereby authorized to again advertise for alterations to Bayonne Economic Opportunity Foundation, formerly Holy Family, for the reasons set forth above. And Section 2, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
And who'd like to move?
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Next is a resolution,
Your microphone.
I'm sorry. This is for the authorization to procure a Caterpillar emergency generator for the use at City Hall. Whereas by the way of resolution number 17-02-15-050, the city entered into a cooperative pricing agreement number 65 MCE-SCCPS with the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey, formerly the Middlesex Regional Educational Service Commission, which is called the Cooperative Pricing Agreement pursuant to NJSA 40A:11-15. And whereas the city is in need of a Caterpillar emergency generator for use in City Hall, including installation and engineering services in connection with same, and whereas it is in the best interest of the city to procure the aforesaid mobile column lift and associated equipment through the Cooperative Pricing Agreement, actually that should read the Caterpillar emergency generator, not a column lift. And whereas the Director of Public Works is in receipt of, quote, JPW 190621-3R1 from Foley Power Systems, 855 Centennial Avenue, Piscataway, New Jersey, 08855, dated July 2nd, 2021, for the amount of $623,493 through the Cooperative Pricing Agreement. And whereas funds are certified as available in account 1-001-44-903-0000020, now therefore be it resolved by the Municipal Council as follows. The purchasing agent be and is hereby authorized to procure the aforesaid Caterpillar emergency generator for use in the City Hall, including installation and engineering services in connection with the same from Foley Power Systems, 855 Centennial Avenue, Piscataway, New Jersey, 08855, dated July 2nd, 2021, for the amount of $623,493 through the Cooperative Pricing Agreement. Funds shall be charged to account number 1-001-44-903-0000020.
Move it.
We have a comment before we...
Sorry, that's an add-on. I didn't know about this. That must be a very large generator.
600K.
Yeah. Where are you putting it?
It's going in front of City Hall,
Excuse me?
in the front of City Hall.
Why? Is that why you cut down the tree?
No, it's going further back, closer to the fire department.
It's looking more like an industrial site out there than a city hall. Isn't there another place you could put it?
The other suggested spot from the Foley generator was on the back side of City Hall, which would have been next to the houses that are there. This spot is where it doesn't affect any of the residents that would be around, because
And can I ask why we need such a large generator when half the employees aren't even in the building anymore?
I'm not going to comment on employees in the building. We need a generator because if City Hall cannot operate during an emergency, we're shut down. So, the
But
fact
there's
that we
no
need
other
an
place,
emergency-
Tommy. There's no other place to put it other than in the front of City Hall? I don't have a backyard. I pay a lot of taxes.
Gail, we looked at other spots, and the way the building is constructed, the way our electrical panel is, we still have to run hundreds of feet of conduit to cut. That was the least expensive location, was right there.
Thank you.
I can give you some landscaping ideas how to hide it a little.
Hopefully they're going
Well,
to
we are
beautify it
gonna,
in
we have
some
some
way.
ideas of what's gonna go there, and
We know a good
we-
landscaper.
it's unfortunate we lost some trees, but that trees had nothing to do with where that generator's going. The generator's going a little further back. We may have to lose that other tree. It may be a problem. We're trying to see if we could cut the roots, but those two trees out there, and I'll show them to you, you can see where the branches are breaking, and the only thing holding them up right now are the lights that we have on the trees. So-
did say that he'll help hide it and make it look halfway decent, correct?
I offered my services, yes, for
Tom-
free.
Tommy, just a question, because you said about not putting in the back because of housing, because of the residents, which I 100% wouldn't want it near me. I got one by me by the bridge, that generator, it's loud. But it doesn't run all the time, right? Only when you need it. Was it, I know the one by me in that house on, by the bridge on Avenue A.
You have the big generator
It turns on
station.
every once in a while.
But we have to run it periodically
Is that it?
just
Yeah,
to
that's-
make
that's my-
sure,
that's what I'm-
yes, there, once a month it should run for 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
There's a whole process that we have to go through. And then when it does run, it comes with a baffler suppression system. It's encased. It comes in either the Caterpillar yellow,
I knew
which, you know, everyone recognizes and is ugly, or white. But we're looking into other options as far as either wrapping it or trying to put, you see on some of the apartment buildings where they put cell towers, they put fake brick around it. So it looks like a brick structure, part of the building. So we're looking into options like that. But first, we have to get the permission for the generator.
No,
Go
I was
ahead
just
with the
wondering about the
generator.
noise, what it'd be like. But, you know, when you're in the middle of an emergency, nobody cares about the noise. I was just wondering how often, and you said 20 minutes when it runs. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
And who'd like the second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Okay, Jay.
The next one is a corollary to the change, the shared service agreement with the Board of Education. It changes our contract with A&L Disposal for garbage pickup. Whereas pursuant to Resolution Number 21-06-16-049, adopted June 16, 2021, the City of Bayonne entered into an agreement number CY 21-071 with AL Disposal LLC for solid waste collection services for a period of 2.5 years or 30 months with 2 one-year options exercisable at the city's discretion. The initial term to commence July 1st, 2021, and to terminate December 31st, 2023, with each option term commencing January 1st and ending December 31st of each consecutive option year, if exercised, for a total contract amount of $4,094,712.50. Whereas pursuant to Resolution Number 21-08-18-057, adopted August 18, 2021, said agreement number CY 21-071 with A&L was amended to include the rental of 20 10-yard dumpsters to be located at various Bayonne Housing Authority locations for the period commencing September 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023, the end of the initial contract term, for an additional amount of $117,600, thereby making the total contract amount $4,212,312.50 for the initial contract term, with 2 additional one-year options exercisable at the city's sole discretion. And whereas the Bayonne Board of Education has requested the city provide solid waste collection services to its grammar and high schools, in addition, an additional 3 days per week for a total of 5 days per week commencing as of September 18, 2021. And whereas the timely collection of solid waste materials is essential for the health, safety, and welfare of the students and employees of the BOE, as well as the citizens of the city of Bayonne. And whereas due to exigent circumstances, the Director of Public Works authorized A&L to provide said additional solid waste collection services to the BOE commencing September 18, 2021. And whereas the city is in receipt of a proposal from A&L for said additional solid waste collection services dated September 22nd, 2021, for the amount of $12,450 for the period commencing January 1st, 2021 through December 1st, 2021, and a total annual amount of $43,160 for each of the calendar years 2022 and 2023, for an additional amount of $98,770 through December 31st, 2023, the end of the initial contract term. And whereas the additional cost incurred by the city attributed to said additional solid waste collection services shall be reimbursed pursuant to a shared service agreement for solid waste collection services with the BBOE. And whereas the city desires to further amend said agreement number CY 21-071 with A&L Disposal LLC to provide for the additional solid waste collection services pursuant to A&L's proposal. Whereas funds are certified as available in account number 101324650000028 and future budgets, now therefore be resolved by the Municipal Council as follows. The actions of the Director of Public Works in authorizing A&L to provide the aforesaid additional solid waste collection services commencing September 18, 2021 are hereby ratified and affirmed. Two, the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to execute a second amendment to agreement number CY 21071 with A&L, increasing same in the amount of $98,770 for said additional solid waste collection services for the period commencing September 18, 2021 through December 31, 2023, the end of the initial contract term, thereby making the total contract amount $4,502,592.50. And funds shall be chargeable to 101-3246500000028 in future budgets.
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Okay, the last two involve the FMBA Local 2011 and FMBA Local 11. The first is, whereas the City of Bayonne and FMBA Local 211 are parties to a collective negotiations agreement effective July 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2018. Whereas that CNA was extended through December 31st, 2020 by way of a memorandum of understanding approved and adopted pursuant to resolution number 17-12-13-105, adopted December 13, 2017. And whereas negotiating teams met on several occasions in an effort to resolve outstanding and existing labor and contract issues. And whereas the City of Bayonne's negotiating team recommended the city agree to the terms set forth in the attached memorandum of agreement, which, among other things, further extends the terms of the CNA between the parties through December 31st, 2025, and constitutes the essential terms of a successor agreement between the parties. And whereas, based on the negotiating team's recommendations, the mayor's designee, Donna M. Russo, Assistant City Attorney, executes said memorandum of agreement. And whereas the municipal council is satisfied that the terms set forth in the attached memorandum of agreement are beneficial to the City of Bayonne, now therefore be it resolved by the municipal council as follows. One, the City of Bayonne approves and adopts the attached memorandum of agreement as resolution of all outstanding issues relating to the successor collective negotiations agreement between the City of Bayonne and the Bayonne Bayonne Fire Superiors Officers Association, FMBA Local 211. The actions of the mayor's designee, Donna M. Russo, Assistant City Attorney, in executing the attached memorandum of agreement are hereby ratified and affirmed.
Move it.
I have a question on that, just for Donna. It's not about the contract. I read your contract. I think the firemen got everything they deserve. But Donna Maurer, you're on the line.
Yes, I am.
Just a quick question, just crossing the Ts and dotting the Is. You were in the room and for this negotiations, and you're fine with our budget on this contract for the next 5 years?
Yes, I am.
I just wanted to clarify that. Yes, I second it. I just wanted to make sure you were a part of it.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye. You guys waited all night to be the last on our agenda. Thank you.
And the last item involves the City of Bayonne and FMBA Local 11. It's pretty much the same exact resolution, but I've got to read them full. Whereas the City of Bayonne and the FMBA Local 11, collectively the parties, are parties to a collective negotiations agreement effective July 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2018. Whereas said CNA was extended through December 31st, 2020 by way of memorandum of understanding approved and adopted pursuant to resolution number 17-12-13-104, adopted December 13, 2017. And whereas negotiating teams met on several occasions in an effort to resolve outstanding and existing labor and contract issues, and whereas the City of Bayonne's negotiating team recommended the city agree to the terms set forth in the attached memorandum of agreement, which, among other things, further extends the term of the CNA between the parties through December 31st, 2025, and constitutes the essential terms of a successor agreement between the parties. And whereas, based on the negotiating team's recommendation, the mayor's designee, Donna M. Russo, Assistant City Attorney, executes said memorandum of agreement. And whereas the municipal council is satisfied that the terms set forth in the attached memorandum of agreement are beneficial to the City of Bayonne, now therefore be it resolved by the municipal council as follows. The City of Bayonne approves and adopts the attached memorandum of agreement as resolution of all outstanding issues relating to the successor collective negotiations agreement between the City of Bayonne and FMBA Local 11. Two, the actions of the mayor's designee, Donna M. Russo, Assistant City Attorney, in executing the attached memorandum of agreement are hereby ratified and affirmed.
Move it.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And, our
Quick reading of this 101-page financial agreement.
last,
Motion to adjourn.
no, you're going to move the resolution
that's
to go
right,
into
sorry.
closed session to discuss matters that fall within the attorney-client privilege. So it's moved by the council president. Who'd like the second?
Second.
And we're not coming back out till now. We'll also take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
And on the first resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski. Okay. That's it.
Ms. Glover?